Good morning and welcome. This is Baringo News. We are bringing to you a conversation around budget implementation in the water department. According to statistics, that is from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, it is evident that Baringo is one of the counties that are that have very poor access to water. It is at 35%. And comparing it with the national average, which is about 65%. That means Baringo is pulling the national average down. And also comparing with counties like Nairobi and Kiambu and those that are within the Nairobi environs, you'll realize that Baringo is doing quite poor because those counties are at around 80%. And remember that access to water, and not just water, but clean water, is a constitutional right that is anchored in the Constitution 2010. And further to that as well, we realize that Baringo County has been allocating a huge budget. It is one of the most funded, the water department is one of the most funded departments in the county. But the question is, why is the average still down? And what is the county government doing towards improving the average, or rather pushing the access to water to be improved among the people of Baringo County? Further to that as well, the county governor, who is the current governor, Governor Kiptis, was campaigning on the platform of Water Maji Bay. Access to water was the song during the campaigns. How are we getting there? And today we are privileged to have the director for water and irrigation, that is Bwana Chepwarwa. We'll give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. And he's here with his technical team, and they will be helping us to get to understand what strategies the county government of Baringo is putting towards reducing, or rather increasing that percentage to go up. And you also realize that during the campaigns for Jubilee in the second term, they started a project called the Big Four Agenda, and one of them was water. Further, again, we have the Vision 2030, access to water as of 2022, or rather the projection was by 2022, every country should have achieved at least 63% access to water. And that informs why we're having this conversation. Karibu sana, I'm your host, Komen SK. We are live from the Rift Hills Resort, and with us here are budget champions. Budget champions are people who have been elected by the community, and these are a representative of the community who will be engaging the water department as we discuss how the budget in the water department is being absorbed or even being spent. Is it prudent? Are we getting the services of the people of Baringo? And the budget champions come from wards like, or rather they come from 10 wards, and 10 out of 30, that is a representation of a third, or rather 30% representation of the entire county. That is Kabarnet ward, Marigat, Kapropita, Kabartonjo, Barwesa, Mukutani, Mochongoi, Kisanana, Ravine, and Tangulbei Korosi. This sample was taken by the Center for Enhancing Democracy and Good Governance. They are the biggest partner in this conversation. And why they took that sample, you notice that majority of those wards are arid and semi-arid, like Kisanana, Tangulbei Korosi, Intiati, Mukutani, Barwesa, Marigat ward, and Ilchamus ward. So about 7 out of these 10 wards are arid and semi-arid, and that justifies why we are here to have this conversation. So stay with us. We'll be here for about 1 hour and 30 minutes, and here we begin. So I'll give an opportunity to our panelists to introduce themselves, and I'll start from my far left.
Thank you so much, SK Comment, for this opportunity. My name is Isaac Chelan, Vice Chair for BACSOF. BACSOF stands for Baringo Civil Society Organization Forum. BACSOF was formulated we came together back in 2014 as a network of actors, non-state actors working in Baringo County. They are drawn from CPOs, CSOs, the media, the private sector, and the community-based organizations. And so we have around 6 thematic areas, which for purpose of this today, the lead thematic area for today is water thematic group, which I stand in. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to engage.
Karibu sana.
Okay. SK comment and fellow members, good morning. My name is Lucilla Kandie. I'm a budget champion from Barwesa Ward and also representing budget champions from Baringo. And these are champions who are equipped with budget documents who they can analyze, and also these are people who are identified by the community to at least to champion for projects of their communities where they come from. And we really appreciate this engagement, and together we are going to come with a good solution.
Asante sana na karibu.
Mr. SK Komen, SATG representatives, budget champions. My name is Noah Jebwarwa, Director, Water and Irrigation, Baringo County. Thank you.
Karibu sana, Director. And I think you being here will really help in, it is a boost to this conversation, because without having a key person in the department, this conversation may not be very productive. Well, we acknowledge the fact that Baringo is among the counties that have a very low percentage in access to water. And from statistics, KNBS, that is Kenya National Bureau of Standards, as I had introduced earlier, we are at 35%, comparing with counties like Nairobi, Kiambu, which are at 80 plus. National average, 65. And that begs now my first question to you, Director. With all that statistics put in place, the county government, led by the governor himself, are putting quite a large amount of resources to this department, but we still are in that low percentage. So access to water has been prioritized in the county, and subsequent budgets being allocated. What has been the motivation to this, aside from those statistics, and how well is the county government ensuring that this percentage goes up?
Thank you, Mr. SK. First of all, I'm not sure about the year of those statistics.
2019.
2019.
Yes.
Based on the information I have, is we are at 39%, and we are projecting that in accordance with the work we are doing as a county government at the moment, we are projecting that by the end of the year, this financial year, that is by June 2022, we are projecting that our figures should be coming to around 42 or 43% based on the work we are doing. And secondly, as you asked what the county government is doing, remember the current governor, Mr. Stanley Kiptis, was campaigning that he wants to have water for every person in Baringo County. He was using the slogan, Maji Water Bay. And the governor himself went ahead to ensure that there is at least adequate funding based on the funds which the county receives from the National Treasury. And therefore the governor himself has ensured that we have some items which the county government will be using to ensure that we boost water provision to people in Baringo. One of them is the purchase of a drilling rig system, which had costed 60 million. And this drilling system has got several things which it does. Currently, we are able to rehabilitate more than 35 projects, just because we purchased that drilling rig system. Yeah.
Well, you've outlined what the county government is doing, and as somebody may say, as usual, the government will always give you their figures, and here is the government. The statistics show that we are at 35, but according to the county government, we are at 39% access, which is a slight improvement, and that is something that we can appreciate because it is a step in the positive direction, really. Madam Kandie, you're a budget champion, and there's this common saying, watu wanasema kwamba maji ni uhai. And you are from Barwesa, which is a semi-arid area as well. How is the water situation? Ni mnapitia ugumu wowote kupata maji, ama situation iko vipi pale chini?
Asante sana SK. Kwa where I come from, Barwesa ward, shida ya maji bado ni changamoto sana. Hata kama bado hata kama tunasukuma kuweka pesa katika department na projects ya maji, vile ninaongea hapa bado tunapitia changamoto. Ile projects yenye county government wamefund ya maji, so far ni chache sana yenye natumika, but majority ya projects ya maji kwa Barwesa ijafanya kazi. Kwa mfano, tuko na project kama Yeptos. Ilikuwa ya 18-19 financial year. So far,
3 years ago.
Yes. Hiyo project wamechenga tanks, storage tanks. Maji hakuna kwa hizo matangi. Wajamaliza mambo ya piping. Another mfano ingine ni kama Kabluk Bowl. That is, I think hiyo ni ya 14-15 financial year. Ilichimbwa, ikafunikwa mpaka saa hii. Sasa sisi kama wananchi tunauliza, tulikuwa nataka hii structure ama tunataka maji? So sisi tunataka maji. Wow. At least ile distance ya kutravel long distance looking for water.
Well, that is, I wanted to see a picture painted on the ground, and of course we've had the government and the strategies in America. Chelal, ward yako ni gani?
Ward yangu ni of course I come from Sarman ward, but naishi Kabarnet hapa, so qualified member of Kabarnet ward, and of course generally across Baringo County there's still low access to water, and of course we must appreciate the efforts ile government imeweka in terms of pushing for allocation. But of course in the budget making process there are 4 stages. Formulation, implementation, formulation, approval and implementation and audit. But now, as citizens, we really prioritize in terms of allocation to the water projects.
Well, maybe to interrupt you, from her perspective, ni kwamba quite a number of water projects have been set up, but there are majority of them are not complete. That is the situation. What do you have a different perspective with respect to how the situation is in terms of access to water on the ground? Maybe you can digress or rather move to a unique area aside from what she has said.
It is true. Most of the projects in Baringo County, citizens are yet to access water. But I think there's a number of projects that the county government has done that we must appreciate the effort in the same. But of course, the statistics says we are at 39. Even though we put at 39, it's still low against the average or national average of 63. So access to water to me in Baringo is still low. And it's a discussion that I wish we could also discuss as citizens. What do we do to increase this access? As much as we are allocating resources to the projects, are we allocating enough resources? Because it could be also where the citizens are the one allocating minimal resources to these projects. And so Lucilla anasema kuwa project inachimbwa tu na hatupati nini maji. So it could be either way sisi ama government. But of course in terms of the citizens who may allocate and then there's no implementation, that squarely falls on the government.
Well, that's now on the financing bit, and I think it's a common conversation that people are even having right now. The other day I've been making visits in across the county, and I could realize that there are quite a number of projects, not necessarily water, that have been built to completion. It could be a slaughterhouse, it could be a sporting facility, it could be a youth empowerment center. Na utapata labda imekaa pia sana haitumiki, and that is the picture that Madam Kandie is painting on the ground. And that brings me back to you, Director, on the strategies, because you've said the county government has acquired drilling rigs. That is on the cases of boreholes. How about these water projects that have been completed? Maybe a borehole has been sunk and it is left. Why do we have such situations on the ground? And ameuliza swali very interesting. Tunataka maji ama tunataka kuona hizi projects? So ni nini haswa inachangia such situations kutokea?
Remind me your name.
That is Kandie, Madam Kandie.
Madam Kandie, just to respond to what you mentioned about the Kapluk bowl, actually it was drilled in the year 2019. And remember, we have got little funds going to each ward because it has to be divided through all departments. And during that financial year, the bowl was drilled, but there were no funds for equipping. The next financial year, the year 2020, it was funded 2.5 million for equipping. And because of the challenges of COVID and other issues which affected even our budgets during, because there was some supplementary to address the COVID issues, the budget was affected, but it was reinstated later. And therefore, this financial year, we have awarded equipping of Kapluk Bowl, and in fact, we are handing over the site in the next 1 week to a contractor to do equipping. Na watu wapate maji.
I would congratulate the county government on that. However, Director, I would not want you to respond to specific questions or other specific situations. Though that is a good response, at least Madam Kandie, there's some hope. Swali langu ni je, ni nini county government, or rather ni nini nachangia? What is leading, or rather what is causing such situations? I've heard a little bit of lack of adequate funds. Does it mean the county government is going ahead to allocate funds to a project halfway, have it completed, or rather have it done phase by phase without a clear plan of when it should be completed?
The question you have asked is something which is affecting the whole county, even in other departments. Mm-hmm. If you have a big project like maybe Department of Trade, mm-hmm. if they are doing a project worth 20 million, really they cannot get those funds at once, and therefore they have to do phasing. During budgeting process, you find that because the funds are little, if now we have Barwesa Ward, and then Barwesa Ward, because they have to distribute their resources, you find that because of the little funds, they look at drilling as first phase, and then they say now because this application has been given this amount of money, they suggest which project are we doing in this application. When they have been given maybe 2.5 million, and they need to do a water project, they say our first project is to drill a borehole. And when we go back to, in fact, they put it like drilling and equipping of a borehole. That is what the description they put it in the budget. So us in the department, using the technical knowledge, we know that 2.5 million cannot drill and equip. So we do fast things fast. And therefore, at the end of the day, we find that most of the projects we do facing.
I noticed something there, and I think I'll throw it to Chelal. Anasema pale kwa nyinyi pale ground mnaandika kwamba drilling and equipping milioni 2,500. Hapa chini kwa department, the technical officers here wanaona hapa these people don't know what they are doing. Is there a disconnect between you and the county government? Nyinyi pale ground mukitaka kuchimba borehole, do you know how much it costs to drill up to equipping a borehole?
Asante sana SK. And I think ini changamoto the citizens of Baringo wamekuwa nayo for a while. And there's been low allocation towards projects. And I think because the citizens will say that this year we want to do drilling and equipping, and then next year we want to face projects. But when we come to the next public participation process, the citizens' priorities in a shift. So tunasema ile village nyingine bado hajapata maji, wacha kwanza tuwachimbie wale borehole. Hiyo mwaka nyingine tena tunasema ile village nyingine bado hajapata maji, wacha tuwachimbie nini? Borehole. So at the end of the day tunakuwa na boreholes 3 for 3 years na hakuna mtu amekunywa maji. That's what Lucilla she's saying. But to address this, I think as a solution, sisi kama backstop and with huge support from ZTG, we developed a cost reference tool. The tool seeks to give minimum allocations to actually to water projects. Now, we categorize all the projects in all the zones that the citizen can use this. But I can comment, there's a challenge because when we go to public participation, the citizens will not want to discuss issues around equity. We're likely to distribute the resources equally. And so when you do, like, for example, a ward like Kabarnet ward, on 5 locations, on about 25 million ward development. Kwa hiyo 25 wanakawa into the 5 locations.
Hiyo inakuwa 5,000,000.
Tano. Then in each location, they go and again split into sub location. Inakuwa 2.5 per sub location. So looking at even if the same location can allocate a project for a water project 5 million, still is not sufficient.
They don't have that
we are
funding.
seeing, like for us when we did the cost reference tool, water borehole for a borehole to be complete was around 7.5 in terms of drilling, equipping, and distribution. So unless to me to address this is that we need to, I have a proposal that we need to increase the amount of money that goes towards development fund.
Well, that is the ward development fund, but there is some money that the department controls, and they even decide which project needs to be funded. And I think I would come back to you, Director.
Allow me to just respond on the same.
Yeah.
That it's true that we only discussed 25 million at a ward times the 30 wards.
Yeah.
We still have a lot of money that the citizens are not involved in discussing.
Yep.
And to me, if my ideal is we need to scrap the flagship projects that the department have, the money that I allocate for flagship projects, so that the whole money for the water sector shall be discussed in the public participation forum. So that when we divide the money, again, it will even go to 10 million per location. Thank you.
Well, that is on the ward fund. Now there is money that the department controls, and the ward fund doesn't really mean that this money is purely for water projects. Is that true? And that doesn't mean that the 25 million that goes to a ward is from the water department to fund water only. Utapata ni barabara, ingine ni all the mwananchi, related projects. They'll decide what to do with that money. Back to you, Director. How much was the department funded this financial year?
This financial year, we got 330 million.
330 million. Compared to the previous year, how much?
The previous year was about 350.
So it is within that range of 300 million.
Yeah.
He's discussing 25 million, which is allocated to fund any project that Mwananchi wishes to have. Now, back to what you're saying. Sometimes Mwananchi says we put 2.5 million to a project. Why does the department allow that to happen when they know 2 million is not sufficient? And how much is it how much does one require to sink a borehole from zero to someone fetching water from the water point? Maybe you can start with how much. Ni shilingi ngapi?
First of all, drilling is a minimum of 2.5 million.
2.5. Tupige hiyo hesabu. Endelea.
That is the lower part, but some sites, because of the depth of the boreholes, it rises to about 3 million.
So let's work with the worst case, 3 million.
And then we have equipping.
Naona raia wanaendelea kufanya hiyo hesabu.
Equipping of boreholes, if you put a moderate borehole of 5 cubic per hour, you do installation of a pump, a motor, those submersible accessories, and then you do solarization, putting those solars and the cables and connecting them.
How much is that?
You put it at 3 million.
3 million. So that makes Wananchi. So if we work with the worst case, it is 3 plus 3. So it's 6 million. And even for those who are watching online, I hope you are noting that, so that next time when you're allocating funds for a borehole, you wouldn't put 2.5 million and expect to drink water the next day.
And
Sai Tuko 6 million.
Yeah, we are not over yet. And then remember, when you get water outside, out of the bowl, people need to drink the water or to fetch the water.
Yep.
And therefore, we need some small pipeline. If we are to go for a longer pipeline, the cost will be high.
Let us assume there's a water point just
we are using a nearby water point.
Yes.
A nearby water point could need a few pipes. It needs an elevated structure.
Water tank.
It needs a water tank. It needs a cattle trap and a community water point.
Yes.
That
How much is that?
To 1 million.
1 million. So we are at 7 million. Any other cost?
That is the cost of drilling and equipping a borehole up to drinking.
Madam Kandie, how much did you allocate for that borehole that you're talking about? You can hand the mic, Director.
The allocation of Kabluk borehole was 1.5 million.
1.5 million.
Yes.
Umeona kwenye ile safari bado mko nayo kupata maji?
Yeah.
Bas. Back to you, Director, as we before I move on to another question. 7 million to drill a borehole. Mwananchi is allocating 2.5 million. Does the department take time to advise Mwananchi on what it costs? Right now, I'm even getting educated myself. I didn't know that. Na wote labda pia na hawajui. Mwananchi pale chini hajui. Labda hata chairman wa water project mwenyewe labda hajui. But they'll approve 2.5 million. What steps do you take when you see under allocation among communities for given projects like the one we are using? We are just using an example of a borehole. Nyinyi mnachukua hatua gani kama department ya maji?
When we get an opportunity always, because most of the people we meet from the community are the representatives from the ward. Those are the MCs, because in most cases they visit our offices. And we usually, when we get the opportunity, we enlighten them that to ensure a borehole is drilled, equipped, until people fetch water, it needs such an amount of money. I also want to appreciate ZGG because when they came in, they came as partners. They didn't come as activists. And so right now we are partners, and we have worked together until we produced this document which says how much should we allocate for a water project. This is part of the training document which we use in case we have community persons, we have the MCAs. So anytime we get the opportunity to enlighten them. Mm-hmm. But also because budgeting process begins from the community during the public participation stage. Yep. The persons who engage the community need to address them using the knowledge they have. Now, because we have this document, mm-hmm. and they do public participation during the budgeting process, they need to continue with that training. Yeah.
So, what I'm seeing from your answer is what needs to be done. It sounds like much has not been done. Is that true? In terms of building capacity within the community. Is that true?
There has never been any formal training.
Well, and I can see here you're taking steps as well. I can see that booklet you have prepared in partnership with the Center for Enhancing Democracy and Good Governance, who are the sponsors of this event. Now, having acknowledged kwamba kuna shida when it comes to the capacity or information that is with mwananchi, mikakati gani mko nayo ya kuensure kwamba hawa raia, before they go into another budget making cycle, public participation, before allocating 1 million for a pandam, when a pandam needs, say, 10 million, what strategies are you putting to educate this mwananchi ahead of the next financial year budget making process?
I believe because we have the budget champions here, these are the first people mm-hmm. to work with the community mm-hmm. because they are contributors also to development of this document, and mm-hmm. they should be the first people to assist us in ensuring that the community are trained so that when they are doing budgeting during public participation, they are informed of steps to be taken.
All right. To you, Madam Kandie, kwa wakati mwingi, you would want to know, tukielekea the budget making process, sahi sini public participation inafanyika, kwa kiwango gani watu wenyu pale Barwesa wanajua kwamba borehole ni milioni 7 kuchimba? Wewe ulikuwa unajua?
Okay. Kiwango yenye tunajua allocation ya kuchimba borehole mm-hmm. ni 7 million vile tumesikia kutoka director wetu. Mhm. Mimi personally mm-hmm. nilijua recently. Lakini before hatukuwa najua. Mhm. Hata vile penye tulimes kama watu wa kablu weka allocation ya 1.5 ama 2.5 million. Ni kwa sababu sisi tunaenda public participation. And then these technical people from department they don't come to. Sasa zingine unaenda public participation unakuta ni watu wa roads ama watu wa budget, so they don't take that time kutuambia ya kwamba mkitaka bowl ni pesa fulani. Sisi tunaweka tu 1 million tuweke kwa maji, 1 million 2 million tuweke kwa barabara. So at first hatukuwa najua. So kwa sababu ya ile knowledge tumepata kutoka partners wetu, ZGG wametu empower and also vile director amesema tulihusishwa kwa hii mambo ya cost reference. Mimi ninajua sahi ndio bowl ikue complete na tukunywe maji, we need around 7 million. So ile contribution yenye sisi kama budget champions ni kwenda kule mashinani before hata tuende kwa public participation ile county government, at least tukue na hizo forums ya kuambiana before tuende huko, ndio hii pesa yenye natosha mradi kama bowl ama dam. So at least tumejaribu na bado tunaendelea.
Asante.
Yeah.
So we see from the comments coming from Madam Kandie, you notice that they're acknowledging kwamba there could be lack of enough technical officers, which maybe director you will confirm that later when we come to discuss some of the challenges that you're facing as a department. And to you who is watching, you may take your time to give your quote. You can drop a question. You have an opportunity to ask any question that you wish to ask. The panel is here. The director is here. I can also see he has come along with his technical person here, and they'll be assisting each other to answer some of your questions. Comment section, or you can also send a WhatsApp message or a message through 0799 030 030, and that tells you we're about to go on a break, and when we come back we should be able to look into your comments and also the questions that you do have. There are some situations pale kwetu, like Sabur. I come from Sabur. Sometimes you find, and I'm sure this is something that happens in other places, aside from just drilling and the water not being used because the borehole is not equipped, sometimes you may find that maybe the water is not fit for human consumption sometimes. And before we go on a break, Director, what is the process that the department undertakes before they decide to drill a borehole in a given place? Because ukijipata kwamba mumedrill maji yenye iko na chumvi na iwezi tumika, that would mean maybe not proper feasibility study was done. Sometimes utachimba borehole alafu mtu baadaye kuja aseme hiyo shamba ni yangu. So that is another challenge that is coming out on issues water, and that is based on the information that I have here. What is the process that you undertake, and why are such eventualities coming up?
Okay. For the questions you've asked, first of all, I want to say that we were to talk about the challenges faced by the department later, but you've just brought in right now. Maybe I'll have to contribute on the same. You find that there are several conflicts arising from location of a water project. People even fight because of location of a water project. You ask them, why are you fighting? It is just the minor issues they are fighting for. You are to put a tank here, another person needs to be put here. The whole thing becomes a big issue. So one thing is one is a land issue.
Those are the challenges. Maybe you can take us through the process before you decide that you're una sink borehole hapa. Ni process gani unafuatilia?
Okay, before I elaborate the process, I just want to state another thing is that Baringo County has got a challenge of groundwater also. Some of the areas have got saline water down there. In fact, there are some depths which you cannot drill beyond, because when you drill beyond that depth, you now eat the rocks or the aquifers which have got a lot of salt. So based on experience of our specialists, they advise the driller, when it reaches this section, in the development of a bowl, that's got a long process. There are legal stages which has to be addressed before the actual drilling. First of all, there is the issue of public participation. So I'll talk of once a budget has been put ready for implementation. So the first thing is to undertake an hydrogeological survey.
Hydrogeological
survey.
That's the first step.
Hydrogeological survey is whereby you get a specialist with equipments for prospecting for water in the ground. This is a person who will come in with the equipments, with experience, uses the equipments to do exploration. And this person we have to procure. Remember, it has to go through the normal procurement process until he is awarded a tender or he is awarded to undertake an hydrogeological survey. Once that is done, we undertake, he produces a report. The report will provide a description of the formation of the ground. It will also provide on the projected depth for drilling of water.
Yeah.
And before that, providing that, it will provide whether there is water or no water. It will provide the estimated or projected depth for drilling. If there is no prospects for water, then you will write the report that there is no need to drill here. You will provide some graphs which indicates that there is no water. If there is water, we bring in a person who will undertake an environmental impact assessment.
So after doing prospecting, now we do EIA. Environmental impact assessment.
Impact assessment.
Yep.
And remember, during the hydrogeological survey process, there are some other underlying activities which has to be undertaken by the department in collaboration with the community, in collaboration with the local leaders, like the issue of land. If now the prospects report that there is water here, then we look at who is the owner of the land. Is it the public land? Is it the private land? And if it is private land, is the owner of the land ready to hand over that portion to the community, free or through compensation? If it is free, is he ready to commit himself? The commitment has to go through those stages to ensure that nobody will challenge the ownership of the land later. If now there is no challenge about the land, we proceed with the issue of environmental impact assessment. Environmental impact assessment will come in to touch on the issue of land again and several other issues.
EIA, then the third step is?
Then this report is forwarded to NEMA, which will, once they go through the report, they provide an environmental license. And then as we get the hydrogeological survey report also, as a department, we submit a report to the Water Resources Authority, because they are the ones who provides or gives permits to allow the contractor to undertake drilling, because it is provided in the law that before drilling a borehole, you have to get a permit. That's a drilling permit, an authorization to drill a borehole from Water Resources Authority. Now, if we have gotten a license from NEMA, we have gotten an authorization to drill from WARA, now we undertake procuring of a contractor to drill the borehole.
And that now leaves your desk, goes to procurement.
Now that one, from there, it goes to procurement. The procurement persons will procure for the contractor based on those who are pre-qualified, and it has to go through that sourcing, evaluation, award, agreement, and then you remember when somebody is awarded, you have to wait for 14 days to allow for any person who wants to challenge the process. Somebody may say, I was not awarded because it was unfair. So you allow 14 days as per the procurement act. And then after that, now the contractor will sign a contract with the client, that is the county government. After that, once we have the contractor, the department comes in to hand over the site which was surveyed. We take the contractor to the site, we meet a committee, tunamwonyesha this way you should drill the borehole, and he does his work.
Well, I believe that is the final bit up to the point of drilling.
Yes.
Where do we miss the point to the point of drilling water where there is no water? Because I'm sure kuna balls zingine zinachimbwa na hakuna maji, na kwingine pia inachimbwa na ikuje na chumvi. You've done your feasibility study, all those steps have been followed. Where do we miss the step ndio tukajipata kwenye situation kama hiyo?
First of all, groundwater prospects is not an 100% process. It is a probability process.
It is
a professional probability process.
You. That I just needed that answer. And before we take a break, at least you've understood the process that it will take for that borehole that needs to be built in your home to be sunk and to the point of getting water out. Maybe before we go on that break, I would want to hear from one or two budget champions.
Maybe SK, before you go ahead. When we drill a borehole, maybe we've got some funds for equipping. And the community might say, we want these funds to do equipping. And yet a contractor has not drilled the borehole. So the first contractor, if he delays, he will delay the other process of equipping. Because we have to get results from the first contractor that the borehole characteristics are this. Now the borehole characteristics, we will use it to procure the other second contractor who will be doing equipping. So that's to wait for one another. We cannot jam a process. It has to flow from the first section up to the end. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I needed to hear from a budget champion, and thanks for clarifying the process, or rather trying to paint a picture. Should one delay one process, it will have a ripple effect in the rest of the processes that are coming over. Maybe the roaming mic we can give to one budget champion, and this is my question to the budget champions. Mumesikia vile mambo iko kwa ground. Ni nini haswa inafanyika? Mukisikia vile our panelists wanasema, what is your feeling about development to completion and even operationalization of water projects pale nyumbani? Hiyo process iko sawa na ni nini challenge muko nayo? You have an answer or we move the mic?
Yala ambayo director wetu amesema ni ya ukweli kwa sababu lakini kule kuna mahali inakosekana.
Ni ya ukweli kwa kitabu.
Kwa maana unakuta kwamba nikienda kama maji ya Lara, sio naelewa mambo ya Lara.
Hiyo ni Baringo South pale.
Ilikuwa ni mambo ya kuona kwamba Mchongo Araba mkutani na El Chamus. Ungefaidika kwa mambo ya Lara project. Lakini unakuta kwamba wakati wa miradi kufanyika, ile process manager bado amesema vizuri sana. Ndio unakuta kwamba zile structures ambazo sisi wards tatu tulikuwa tunatarajia kwamba itakuwa nafuu mambo ya maji. Unakuta kwamba kuna mahali pengine vitu vimeskipiwa kwamba kama kulikuwa na structures, kuna kioski ambayo wananchi pia walikuwa wanafurahia kwamba ikiwa maji haya yatakuja na kuwekwe kioski, mambo ya ng'ombe kunywa nayo, watakuwa at least, sababu sehemu zile kama vile bwana director amesema ni sehemu ambayo maji huwa ni chumvi, lakini maji ya Laraba ingekuwa nafuu kwa hiyo area yote.
So
lakini kutoka kwamba kwa sasa wakati tunaongea maji yanatoka Laraba, Musuro, na Narok, Loitip, Kailer, Iti hapo. Ilikuwa ina serve at least Mkutani lower, Mochongoi lower, alafu pato.
So nini nafanya?
Maanisha kwamba wale ambao walikuwa wanatarajia wao wana supervisors hiyo kazi. Walisembea.
Kuzembea.
Maana kama kuna mahali contractor alifanya makosa, ni nani ingestahili kurekebisha contractor? Maana PQ wao wenyewe wanajua.
Wacha nikuulize swali, hii Honorable Water Project, is it a dam ama ni borehole?
Sio dam. Ilikuwa project ambayo ilifanywa kitambo na the late president.
So kazi yenye county government ilifaa kufanya
ni maji ya mto.
Ni kufanya nini? What was the role of the county government?
Treat your
water treatment.
Alafu inafanya
piping. So ni wapi imekwama?
Imekwama mambo ya kiosk.
Water kiosks, water traps ya ng'ombe.
Alafu pia mpaka saa hii sioni mambo ya pipes ya kusupply kwa watu itakuja ama imekwama pale. Maana hizo pesa about 70% ilikuwa ya dona. Sisi wengine ambao tuko ward tukatoa 3 million each.
Bas, we've gone deep into that project. You can listen and even figure out vile mambo iko pale kwa ground. Kwa majina, maybe for the sake of those who are viewing, hawajasikia jina lako.
Jina naitwa Menotano Jackson.
Menotano
Jackson. Toka Mojongoi ward.
Lakini wewe uko na Meno 32 bana. Well, maoni kutoka kwa Menotano. Wacha tusikize from is it Elijah? No. This is Biwot. Wacha tusikie kutoka kwa Biwot. We'll just take those two. It is just painting a picture of how the ground looks like. Then we'll come back, and that is when we'll discuss. We'll go to the next step of our conversation.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Isaiah Biwot. I'm a budget champion from Barwesa Ward. Now my question on the issue of water, March Day. The slogan that is of our governor is, I want to ask the director, the sustainability of the water projects, because what is the department doing to ensure that there is sustainability, there is a policy in the management of water projects? Because currently, as we are talking, billions have been spent since the advent of devolution. That is 2013. But ukifika kwa crown, pipes ziko kila mahali. The quality of workmanship also in the crown is a problem. Why? There is a cap because the supervision of the contractors is such a problem. The sustainability of the project is a problem. That is an issue. Billions have been spent, yes, but there is no impact in the community. We still take dirty water from the streams, yet we have pipes crisscrossing over our villages. So I want to ask the director, what are you doing as a department to ensure that there is sustainability? Because currently there is no policy. The only people who benefit after completion are contractors. They'll go, they'll travel the way to the bank, get cash, their checks, and go. And the pipes in a breakdown of the 1 week because of workmanship and all that. And the same community will remain without water.
Thank you.
Lastly,
the water
is the issue of also supervision. I come from Muchukwa. In Muchukwa, we have a project called Ketiborok Water Project. That project was started by Tal Oil. It was a CSR project. They did halfway of the project. and they were the ones supervising, not the county government. When they handed over the county government, that is where our problem started. Currently, there are no hangers in the pipeline. Pipes imewachana. So every time as a community, we have to changa pesa to rekebisha the work that could have been done by the county engineers because of poor workmanship. So what are you doing to ensure that we also supervise the projects? Because it's like there is a conflict of interest, because when we try to question why that project is not going, chairman anasukumwa kando and the person is brought ile mwenye aulize maswali and the problem inakaa. So that is the problem that we have: conflict of interest, poor workmanship, and sustainability of other projects.
Oh, so that is the current situation on the ground. We'll just take those two for now, and before we move and or rather we go into a break, when we come back, we'll be looking at how the absorption of the budget at the water department is. And maybe for those who are watching online, there's a screenshot of a table that gives an analysis of how the budget at the water department has been consumed or rather spent. Maybe I can start from 2014. I would go to the development budget absorption. On the budget, there is a recurrent expenditure, and you will notice that the recurrent expenditure would even go beyond 100%, which means maybe there was under allocation, or a lot was done during that year. But apparently those figures, again, the percentages do not match with the development budget absorption. Like for 2014-15, 104% went to recurrent expenditure, which means the staff were paid and even their operation budget was depleted to a point of being added. And that year, the development budget for water was at 56.3%. 2015-16, 61.3%. 2016-17, 66%. That is actually the highest, 66.9. 2017-18, hiyo ni wakati wa siasa. And I think that's something that we'll really want to look at, because we are also in a campaign mood and we are registering the lowest in terms of the absorption of the development budget katika department ya maji. It was at 24.2%. And on the operation, or rather the recurrent expenditure, we were absorbing up to 113%. Salaries were paid, but work was not done. That is 2017-18, before, while we were voting. 32% in 2018-19, 50% in 2019-20, and 20% 2020-21. Sasa kama sahi tuko 20%. You can imagine, you can even project how that figure would be, because a lot will be distracted, and maybe the director will help us to understand that. So we are taking a break, maybe 2 minutes, then we'll come back. The questions that the two gentlemen have asked, it was an opportunity to note what is happening on the ground, and already these people have burning questions. And important to note is that a lot of projects may be termed as stalled, or maybe the maintenance and sustaining these projects is not very clear as of how it is being done. And the director will also help us to understand how that is being done. The situation may really look ugly, if I may say. But at the end of the day, why we're having this discussion is to get to a consensus on how best we can manage these projects. During the beginning, we requested the director to give us the process with which we follow when drilling a borehole. We've understood that, something that most of us may not have known. We now even know that it costs about 7 million to sink a borehole equipped to the level of you taking water at home. So this is for us to understand the current situation, how best we can deal with it so that we can improve access to water in our county. We take a break. We'll be back shortly.
Kwa majina ninaitwa Rongai Liakwara. Mimi natoka Eldume sub location, Elchamus location, Elchamus ward, Mariat. Nafanya kazi ya community. Mimi ni budget champion.
The Constitution of Kenya came into effect in 2010 and it introduced devolution which opened new avenues for citizens to participate in the budget-making process, allowing them to have a bigger say in the prioritization of their needs. A major part of these reforms were related to how resources reach the most marginalized areas and communities. The Elchamus community is one of the smallest ethnic groups in Kenya that over the years has become increasingly vulnerable as a consequence of economic marginalization that stems from government policy that has neglected the arid and semi-arid lands which Baringo County is part of. In Elchamus ward, Baringo County, public participation has recorded tremendous improvement after local civil society organizations that came together to leverage on collective effort.
We didn't have structures for citizens' engagement. We didn't have accountability mechanisms of government to its own people. We had also very low citizens' understanding of governance. We realized it was very critical. The first engagement that we committed ourselves as Baringo Civil Society Forum was to mobilize communities to engage with the government in the budget process and the planning process.
Notably, Rongai Leakwara, a woman living in a predominantly patriarchal society, is a budget champion who has been trained and exposed to the planning and budgeting process and has been instrumental in engaging with the county government and other actors on behalf of the community. Rongai, who is also living with a disability, has defied odds to continue championing for the rights of her community.
Tolea kusaidia jamii kwa mambo ya bajeti. Kila wakati tulikuwa tukilaumu MCA hajatufanyia kitu, MCA hajatuambia kitu. Nikakuja pia kujua kwamba kuna kitu inaitwa public participation. Sikuwa najua. Na wakati nilielewa bajeti na nilielewa kwa nini inawekwa bajeti, na nikaanza kujitolea kusaidia community yetu, pia niweze kuelimisha waweze kuelewa bajeti ni nini. Na miradi zetu nyingi zimesimama kwa sababu sisi hatufuatili.
Naona vitu ikianza kusonga. Hapo mbeleni tulikuwa gisa. Hatukuwa tukielewa vile vitu inaenda. Sababu wakati wanaitisha public participation tulikuwa tukiona kama ni ya maana. Lakini leo hii tumejua umuhimu ya kufika pale na kusema hii iwekwe na kusema hii isiwekwe.
For a community that was not aware about the provisions for them to engage in the budget process, participating in the budget process has become an active part of their lives. This has been driven by the understanding that their participation makes a difference.
Hapo awali na sasa kuna utofauti kubwa sana kwa sababu watu hawakujua kwamba serikali wanasahusika kwa serikali ama wanasafaidika kwa serikali. Ilikuwa wanafikiri serikali ni ya watu wengine.
The citizens who are budgeting for these projects, everything comes from the people. And then from the people it comes to the assembly. And then from the assembly it goes to the budget.
International Budget Partnership Kenya, IBP, in partnership with Center for Enhancing Democracy and Good Governance, is facilitating citizens through budget champions to steer a budget process that is above par by facilitating civic education in public finance management with the intention of realizing improved service delivery.
We have individuals at the community who are more of animators of these decisions, of these spaces. They inform public deliberations. And what we have purpose as an institution is that we equip them with information in good time in terms of what is supposed to be done, when, who is involved. But then we also point them to where they can get budget documents.
Public engagement that carry out civil education, civic education, and this entire process of financial management.
Karibu tena. Before we went on a break, I was giving you a breakdown on the absorption rate of the budget that is given to the Department of Water. This is a conversation that is looking at the water department and the implementation of the budget year in, year out since the advent of devolution in 2013. And with us here are the budget champions who are a representative of the community. These budget champions come from 10 wards, and majority of them are those that are in the arid and the semi-arid constituencies. And the panel as well is well represented. We have at the Department of Water, represented by the director, that is Bwana Noah Chepuwarwa, and representatives of the community as well, Madam Kandie and Isaac Chelal, who aside from being a budget champion is also a facilitator when it comes to the budget making process. So before we left for a break, director, we were looking at the absorption rate of the budget in your department. You told us the department is being allocated to a tune of 300 million. I don't know how much goes to the recurrent expenditure and how much goes to development. Maybe you can break that down. Alafu, we now look at why are we experiencing a downward trend when it comes to absorption. You can take the mic because this conversation is on your desk right now. So how much does it go to development? You can give it in terms of percentages. Development versus the recurrent expenditure.
Okay.
Specifically in your department.
In my department, like this financial year, recurrent is about, I mean the previous years. We used to have recurrent about 120 million against a budget of around 400 million. Remember when there are some previous cash transfer. So when you had some cash transfer previously from other years, you find that that development budget rises to about 500 million.
When you say cash transfers, I'm sure someone is asking whether it is the same thing as the rollover.
Yeah, we've changed the name from rollover to cash transfer so that people don't spoil it. But just to explain this, this thing people call it rollover. It is not that the county government has returned the funds. It is projects, in most cases, which have been awarded to contractors, and the contractors have not delivered. So we are waiting for them to complete their work so that we can pay them. If somebody or some contractors are awarded contracts in the month of June, projects worth around 100 million. And then we have only 2 weeks or 3 weeks to the close of the financial year, then they cannot be paid. And their funds, we call it cash transfer. It is work ongoing. So people need to understand that.
And that even, pia mimi ni mwenyeji hapa Baringo, and I would even be concerned more. Projects spilling over to this coming year, which means there is some, maybe the spending is not, the money is not being spent. And in IT kuna kitu inaitwa DDoS, denial of service attack. Maybe I can explain that. If you have a website, let's use for example the ZGG website or the county government website. The website is working, but if I want to mess it up, I can bring a huge traffic which will jam the system. When it jams the system, the website fails to work, and that is denial of service. So anyone who was genuinely looking for service in that website will not access. Now, relating it to this situation, projects from previous financial years zimeingia hapa. A lot of projects, few technical staff, monitoring and evaluation. and the end result is mwananchi not getting value for their money. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe wananchi pia watanisaidia hapo. So aside from that, we'll still come back to the rollover conversation. But now, you've been, you have 120 million for recurrent, and maybe if you subtract from 400 million, you get 300, is it 280 for development, Sivyo?
No, three.
400
no,
from 120.
If I said 400, that is only development.
Yes. Oh, that is for development only.
Yeah.
Oh, so if you add both, you can talk of about 620.
Yes.
Or rather 600 and 400 plus 120, that is 520. That is the budget for the department.
Yeah, actually, after some calculations which we have been doing, our recurrent is about 22%.
22% recurrent,
yes.
And 78 is for development. Yes. Now, mine is about absorption. 2014 we were at 53%, which means 56%. So we are talking of 56.3, 43.7 being rolled over. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes. 61% in 2015-16, 66.9% in 2016-17. Then the worst of the percentages is when we were going into an election, 24.2%. Then it went up with the new dispensation, or rather with the new regime. It went up to 32% in 2018-19, 19-20 financial year, 50%, and a drastic drop again to 20% in the current financial year. Maybe we are in November. It's not even the current financial year, it is the previous financial year. So 20% in the previous financial year. We note a decline there. What can you say about those percentages of absorption with regards to access to water kwa mwananchi?
First of all, I want to give an explanation of those rise and drop in absorption. In the first few years of devolution, the procurement process was a normal manual process. And until the financial year 2018-2019, that the government brought in the issue of IFMIS. So if you look at 2013 to 2016, it was a manual procurement process. That's why the percentage is so high. It came to the financial year 2016-2017, which was a campaign and electioneering period, and that one was expected.
Yeah.
You come to the financial year 2018-2019, the government adopted the IFMIS system.
Yeah.
And the IFMIS system is an ICT item which involves the department, it involves the whole county, it involves suppliers and contractors from the first stage of procuring of suppliers up to the payment stage. And so, people have to be trained on this process.
So does it mean
it has affected, first of all, it affected the first financial year 2018-2019.
And during that year we are at 32%.
Yes. When you go to the financial year 2019-2020, you saw there were minor challenges which the department faced.
Yep.
One, the contractors and suppliers had begun to understand the IFMIS process. And then there were no major challenges which we were facing. We still had enough staff also. That was in financial year 2019-2020. And then in the next financial year, 2020-2021, tukapata shida ya COVID. And I can tell you, COVID has done drastic damages to several budgets all over the country. Because county governments with the assemblies had to go back to the assembly to do mitigation measures. Mitigation measures means you have to forego some projects to solve the emergency, and then later you bring back the funds. So apart from that, most contractors who are awarded their projects, remember the government said, stay in your place if you want to be safe. So contractors and suppliers were not traveling, nobody was going to work and until the close of that financial year. That's why there was a drastic drop up to 20%. Now the department looking into the issue of the campaign period. I can tell you this financial year, irrespective of the kind of work, the kind of campaigns which will be, you will see the results, because the department has gone ahead to put in plans and mitigation measures to ensure that absorption rates are high.
Well, back to the campaign period. You are a director. You are permanently employed at the county government of Baringo, right? Well, how does politics and campaigns affect your dispensation of, or rather, your delivery of service to mwananchi? Yet you are in office whether a governor is voted in or voted out.
There are several issues which contribute during the campaign period. One is even the politicians, the representatives of the people. Some people, because they want, it is a time to fetch for votes. And therefore the conflict of interest on which project should start, which one, it all goes into affect the development. And also if the department does not plan well, they will be caught in the mix and there will be delays. But what I can say now, the Department of Water and Irrigation has put in measures to ensure that the implementation and absorption is maintained at good rates. Like right now, we have completed data collection of all our projects, about 150 projects. Right now, we have taken it to procurement, to be procured. And by Christmas period or early January, we will be doing handing over of projects.
That's encouraging, and maybe to you who's watching, you've heard that the county government of Baringo, through the Department of Water, is promising that the elections will not affect implementation of water projects. And that's a huge commitment, if I may say, and should it work, then that would be a plus to mwananchi, so that we don't lose on both ends. We are campaigning here, projects are delaying, and things are not moving. For those who are watching online, thank you for giving us your comments. Maybe I can go through a few of them. Janet Nandwa Ogoli anasema, congratulations said Gigi for bringing this conversation. It's about time we have serious discussions surrounding water. When the water menace, when is the water menace going to be a thing of the past? And I believe through such conversations we get to address the issues. It may be slow, but a step at a time. Nuria Shaban, you're saying good job, Center for Enhancing Democracy and Good Governance. Mika Keitany, you're saying this is a long-awaited discussion. I hope this is just the beginning of the conversations. And maybe just to respond to Keitany, this is a partnership that we've developed with the Center for Enhancing Democracy and Good Governance, and we should be having these conversations regularly. Maybe for a start it could be a quarterly thing, but now that we are going into an election, we will be having such town hall conversations that would even translate into you getting an opportunity to know your leader. Those could be debates. It could also be meet the mwananchi pale ground, tusikie ni nini anasema kulingana na uchaguzi unaokuja. Mzalendo MK anasema, high shortage of water in Tuko, Saimo Soi ward, just highlighting it to them to be dealt with immediately. Kosile, Namba, Tuko boreholes respectively. Stalled projects is at high and alarming rate. Mzalendo MK from Tuko. Tunakuona Bwana Salim. Who's Salim here? Naona raia wanasema wanakuona. Huyo ni Nuria Shaban. Further to the comments, Carol Koril anasema, noting for my community, currently a budget allocation of 2.5 million drilling and piping. So Carol is learning that drilling and equipping a borehole is way higher, and currently they are allocating 2.5. Anasema it's still a long way considering it was a budget allocated in 2020-2021. And I'm happy people are getting to learn and they are giving their views. Colonel Sigei anasema, ask the director what are the main challenges facing Kabartonjo town and what are they doing to equip the town with piped water. Kabartonjo is one of the headquarters for one of the sub-counties. And na watu wanaita London. I wish the name would have translated to the services they are getting on the ground. And of course, water is a basic thing. If there is no water in a given town, that town is not even a town anyway. Sigei again is saying, what is the difference between the services offered by Grandich Water Services and those offered by the county government of Baringo? Finally, just to conclude the comments that are coming on and even the questions that are coming on, Isaiah Biwot anasema, you are present in the discussion. So Isaiah is with us here and at the same time is with us online. That is interesting. Kiplimo Wayne, great forum. Accountability is key or on every resource allocation. If this sector is heavily allocated resources, why is it up to date there is no water policy in place in Baringo County? Do we have a water policy, Director?
Currently, no.
Okay. Secondly, there is no legislated laws for water in Baringo. Do we have water laws or legislated laws for water in Baringo? No. Okay, so that is Kiplimo Wayne. Anaongezea pia kwamba it is unfortunate I didn't get an invite for this forum despite being a major stakeholder in the sector. So to you, Kiplimo, we are happy that you are following the conversation and treat this as an invite. Please stay on the conversation or rather the live stream up to the end so that you get to have your questions answered. And finally, Rogers Koech anasema, following keenly, the machine that was bought the other time, including the rig, where are they? The machines that were bought, including the rigs, ziko wapi? Huyu ni mwananchi labda anafikiri akona maoni kwamba they cannot access or rather they cannot even see these machines anyway on the ground. Well, those are concerns from mwananchi and I know some will come up, but before we even go to answering those questions, I can see the director is recording them. I would want us to go into the same issue about budget but on a different perspective. There is equitable distribution of resources and there is equal of diversity from the culture to the terrain. 2/3 of Baringo County is asal, and saa zingine labda utapata Tirioko, which is in Tiate or Silale, is getting an equal allocation for water projects as compared to a place like say Eldama Ravine. Let's say there's a place in Eldama Ravine that has adequate water, and noting, of course, I'm using Eldama Ravine because it has plenty of rainwater, so water harvesting is in plenty there. How does the department ensure that there is equitable distribution of these resources? Director.
Thank you, Banaeski. I think there is a difference between equity and
equality.
And equality.
Yes.
You find that our laws in the county assembly they do it in terms of equality. They distribute resources by dividing the ward development fund by 30 wards. That is equality.
Yes.
There is this fund known as flagship. Actually, flagship is under the governor's office, but the governor works with the departments and the assembly. Flagship is the funds which are meant to bring in equity. If there is a project of interest which will serve more people, that is where we can use flagship through a process. Anything else?
You are saying that the ward fund may not bring, is it equality or equity?
The ward development fund might not bring in equity.
Well, so thanks for...
So flagship tries to bring in equity.
Flagship projects tries to bring in equity.
Yeah, but ward development fund is equality among all the wards.
Yes. And you've taken me to a figure which will be showing on your screen in a few. The flagship projects that you're talking about, maybe I can give an overview on the distribution of flagship projects in the water sector, Baringo County, financial year 2020-21. The lowest, Eldama Ravine, and Baringo South is where I come from. It is an ASAL area. Eldama Ravine is at 2%. Baringo North 5%, which is also maybe 50% or even 70% arid. 5%. And Tiati, which is the biggest landmass and the most ASAL, or rather arid and semi-arid area, is at 4%. Mogotio, which is also maybe 70-30, arid and semi-arid, is 7%. Now, where is the equity in this?
I don't know. Those percentages are based on what?
They are based on the, let's say, the size of the cake is X.
So who has taken the biggest cake? Because those percentages are more.
The biggest cake, Baringo South has taken 0 piece. The largest percentage is shared among all the constituencies, including, no, the largest is 33%, which is going to Baringo Central, where we are right now, which is a highland area. Water issues majorly are in Baringo South, Tiati, Baringo North, and parts of Mogotio. But Baringo Central is carrying the biggest share at 33%.
I do not know where you got those figures because I want to object those figures you have given us.
Maybe you can counter that, and I'll also ask Bwana Chelal, who is a facilitator when it comes to budget making process, atueleze hizi figures tulipata wapi as the budget champions.
Asante sana SK and everyone watching. I think for us the figures are true. These are budget analysis and facts. And if anyone wants to us to substantiate, can as well substantiate from what we got from the government documents.
So this is government data.
If of course this could be, maybe the director is not aware of the figures, but let's look in the 2022-2023 ADP. Let's look at allocation to the 6 wards. Personally, I did analysis of the 2022-2023 ADP, and the flagship projects. There's high percentage that's going to Ravine and Baringo Central. The wards that should be getting high allocation of the flagship projects are the one getting the less allocation. So it could be that by design or by default, but it's a fact that wards like Tiati, which should be getting a higher percentage of the flagship projects, are missing out in the allocation. They are getting few projects. As I get this chance comment to respond to other things, is that we are looking at the absorption and we are saying that maybe the department have their own issues, but how can a project stay for under rollover for 4 years or even 5 years? When we ask the department or their financial reports, the good thing is that the PFM Act of 2012 stipulates that counties must publish their financial documents online. So it is easy for any citizen from Baringo to go through the website, get to see which projects have been on rollover for a while. To me, it is, I would still blame the government in terms of not providing leadership in budget decisions. It could be that we want the citizens, it's actually the balance. It's a balance of technical input and democracy. Mm-hmm. Do you want the citizens to decide what they want? Or do you want to support their decisions with technical information? Because at times we leave them to decide, then they can spread too thin. But looking at even the 2022-2023 ADP, we are still starting new projects. We are initiating new projects. While we have so many projects that they are not complete. So it is still a challenge that for me, the absence of the technical staff for Baringo, for the water department at the public participation forum, like Lucilla had alluded earlier, it still poses a challenge, which because most of these issues around equity and absorption comes from formulation. If you don't formulate well, and then definitely when it comes to implementation, we're going to get some issues.
Well, so the figures are correct.
The figures are very correct.
And something also that is coming up from your response, I think you may have felt that I've kept you for too long and you've taken that opportunity to give your thoughts. You've mentioned something to do with the community or mwananchi being given the autonomy to make decisions. A borehole, a project should be 7 million, but you're allocating 1 million. So it may even take another 5 years for it to get another 1 million in every financial year to reach completion. So 5 years, borehole has been sunk, but it's not serving the people. Well, that's something that is of concern, and I think we'll be looking at that. So, Director, umejua kwenye hizi figures inatoka. What is the correct position?
I do not know where Chalal got those figures. But if you looked at the figures for the financial year 2022, 2023, mm-hmm. those ones we have not even seen.
We are in
and I do not know whether he was combining for the whole, for Department of Water only, or maybe summed up for the all departments.
This is for the water sector.
Allow me to interject. I think we have budget champions here. Also, we have colleagues from Pakso. We shall in short level substantiate, especially at the ADP for 2022-2023. We can substantiate to the director for his information.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But we can proceed for the purpose of this discussion until I debate evidence. We can proceed.
But you know, when you say FY 2022-2023, it is something which is still going through several stages. So you cannot work on that basis. Let us work on what we call budgets which have been passed, approved, and passed.
I suppose you understand how budgets are being made. It is what's being prioritized at ADP forms the budget. It will not come outside what was not prioritized in the ADP. But of course, I want us we can substantiate the same and then we can move forward.
Well, The report that I'm having here is that which was worked on by the Center for Enhancing Democracy and Good Governance in partnership with these budget champions. And I think I would give an opportunity to one of the technical officers at the Center for Enhancing Democracy and Good Governance to give his input, because there's a feeling that the roaming mic, please. There's a feeling that maybe the figures are not correct. Evans.
Just before you let me interject. Let me give my figures for the previous financial year.
Mm-hmm.
The previous financial year, we had a budget of 15 million
mm-hmm.
for Baringo Central.
Mm-hmm.
We had a budget of 20 million
mm-hmm.
for Baringo North. We had a budget of 21 million for Tiat. We had a budget of 10 million for Baringo South. We had a budget of, I think, 40 million for Mokotio. Those are the figures which I remember.
So if you total them, for example, if I can do a quick math, I can see 35 million going to 56, and then plus 40, that is 96 million. So assuming that is the entire size of the cake. You said Tiati, 21 million, right?
Tiati, 21 million.
Okay, so maybe from the audience you can do that percentage. 20 million for Baringo North, 15 million for Baringo Central, 21 million for Tiati, 10 for Baringo South, and 40 million for Mogotio. How is the percentage distribution? So as you do the math, we can give Evans an opportunity to give his input. Evans is a programs officer at the Center for Enhancing Democracy and Good Governance.
Thank you so much, SK and director and colleagues from PAXO, for delving into this issue of equity. I think it's at the center of my heart, and anytime we do advocacy, we are very keen on that aspect of equity, because without equity there is no sustainable development. The challenges we see that are characteristics of Baringo, including insecurity, part of it is as a result of systemic kind of marginalization and giving a blind eye to issues around equity. So I am happy to hear from the director that in the most recent financial years, because the data we are citing is for the year 2020-2021, the annual development plan, because that's where they categorically state the plans for the year. That in the 2022-2023, and even the current year that we're implementing, if there's an improvement in terms of the framework for sharing of resources, then we laud that. But we are all aware, when we mention flagship projects in Baringo, what comes to our mind, and I think budget champions can substantiate this. A lot of focus has been around developing Chemususu water project to last mile, which is good, because we are building on what is already there. A lot of focus is around helping Kirandich water company and providing water within Kabarnet municipality. And we know the viability of that project again is something questionable. And that is related even to one of the issues that one of the audience has raised on the water policy. Because you know, as a lot of money has been invested in the previous regimes, Kirandich water supply, but they still face systemic issues. But if you look at the ADP 2020-2021, and even the subsequent budget, I can even mention specific projects that went to Baringo Central, that went to Eldama Ravine, that went to those 6 sub-counties. And truth be said, there was no clear criteria for allocation of those projects. Maybe a question to director, moving forward, do they have a specific criteria? Even the allocation is mentioned. I think the budget champions have done the math. They still know very deliberate effort to promote equity, because equity is allocating based on need. If you look at the need in Tiati versus the need in Eldama Ravine versus the need in Mogotio and South, If you can post those figures again, you can give a screenshot. You realize that Tiaty is very far. Tiaty is very far. We talk about a sub-county of about 10% of people getting access to improved sources. We are talking about 90%, almost the entire population, having not accessed clean and safe water. And at the ward level, we are doing a lot of work to mobilize citizens. I think that was acknowledged by the director and his colleagues, that we have mobilized people to prioritize water. But I'll surprise you, even the challenges that we are still talking about are also impeding the efforts. The issues of feasibility study. I went to Silale ward personally the other day, and it's a very sad state of affairs. They could mention up to 5 projects that are not successful, up to 5, because of the nature of the environment there, the issue of salinity, the issue of dry boreholes like Nakuru borehole, and many others. And I know, Director, you know this. So when you say we are making effort, I think we need to see more. I think it's good to, if you are appreciating the challenge, then we need to do more. Maybe a challenge to you. Is there any flagship project in Tiaty which is successful? And not even Tiaty, let's be specific. Because Tiaty is big. Any specific project that is flagship that is in Silale ward that we don't know about, or Kericho ward, and if it's in the pipeline, we'll all celebrate. Because very soon, I think the problem will be addressed. Without necessarily going into where the figures came from, I think they are budget documents and can be substantiated.
Okay, so Evans has given clarification on how those figures were arrived at, and even the situation on the ground. He has given an example of Silale ward, where not a flagship project is seen there, and they're highly dependent on maybe the rainwater, the rivers, which dry up along the way. So I don't know, did someone do the percentages for the various constituencies?
Just as they proceed with the percentages, I want to make it clear to Kibet that Nakuru Bowl was operational. It broke down, and the county government has maintained, and it's now operational. Because we try to advocate for operation and maintenance fund. We got a little, and we were able to use that fund to bring into operation that ball and several other balls.
Okay, clarified. So maybe Evans, that report, I hope maybe if you were there 3 months ago, we believe that the borehole is working right now. Now, did someone do the percentages? Kuna mtu amepiga hiyo percentage ya 40% Yati wapi? Iko mtu?
Maybe you can answer my question directly, just for the sake of us appreciating. Is there a flagship project that has been successful in Silale or Kericho ward? Leave alone what citizens are allocating in the ward resource envelope. Because I think the county can make use of the flagship project. It's a good thing that they didn't subject everything to public participation to some extent, because the technical people can guide where there is more.
Okay, Director, is there a flagship project in Silale? And
currently, that fund of 20 million, we have done design of water pans, because that was that is what we are going to do. We have done design of water pans, and it is at procurement stage, about 5 or 6 water pans.
In which wards? How many distributed in all the 7?
Tangul Bay ward, Silale, and Kolowa ward.
So Tangul Bay, Silale, and Kolowa.
And even Kericho. There is one water pan.
All right.
Yeah. SK, just to have a burning question, we are also to everyone here that who decides on these flagship projects? I think it's high time we involve citizens in deciding on the flagship projects.
Well, that's also a concern, and I was also to ask that, because most of the time people say those are within the governor's prerogative to And you actually said they are within the governor's office. But the feeling is maybe those, when you say you've designed water pans and you want to solve issue of access to water in Tiati. And I think at the beginning we acknowledged that water, I think we had a side discussion, and we were saying that water from water pans may not be the best for consumption. So what are we addressing? Is it availability of water to livestock alone and leaving out the human beings? And now being flagship projects, what do the wananchi say? And I think that is what Isaac is trying to put in there. And before I give you an opportunity, Director, I don't know if someone did the percentages so that we can even compare with what is on. If you didn't do, maybe I can read out what I've done here. Out of the 96 million amount that was allocated for flagship projects last year, Baringo North is taking 20.8%. Baringo Central is taking 15.6%. Baringo South is taking 10 million, which translates to 10.4%. And Mogotio is taking the lion's share at 41.7%. So maybe to the source of the report that we have here, we can still compare notes, but still, the question would be, does it address the issue of equity, or we are still at equality? Of course, we cannot talk about equality here because the percentages are varied. So does it address equity? Baringo North 20%, Baringo Central 15%, Baringo South 10%, Tiati 21%. If you do two counties are at 20 something percent, 2 counties are at 10%, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Eldama Ravine, how much did you allocate for Ravine? $40 million. So you see, Eldama Ravine, which is almost water secure, if I may use that word, is on top of the game, followed by Mogotio, followed by Baringo North, Baringo Central, Tiati, then the last constituency is Baringo South. Do you have something to say?
Yes, just one issue. Apart from flagship, we usually once in a while get opportunities from partners, like the Water Sector Trust Fund, to develop proposals for development of water supplies in the communities. One of them, we were able to develop a proposal for rehabilitation of Olharapal water supply in Baringo South. If you look at those figures, you find that the Baringo South was awarded flagship of 10 million at the lower side, because our proposal was successful. It is now, it will be serving more than 20,000 people in Lower Machongoi, Ilchamus, and Mugutani Ward. We got about 70 million, and the project is now at around 98% completion. That is part of the things which are bringing in equity. At the moment, we have got smart agriculture, funds coming through the Department of Agriculture, sometimes funding water projects, and we have some projects which we have worked with the Department of Agriculture, which is also addressing the issue of equity. We have in Hemening Ward, they got about 10 million through our proposals. We have Cheboruswa, about 18 million. That is Marakwet Ward. That's your ward, Banaeski. We have got around 20 million also in Tangulpay Ward. Part of it, that is addressing equity. We have Kipcherere water supply. It is coming to around 27 million. And there are other proposals which we are intending to develop One is Water Sector Trust Fund for Baringo Central, which will be addressing issues of Kapropita Ward and Kabarnet Ward. We have 4 boreholes, high-yielding boreholes, which we want to equip to support a water provision in the 2 wards. And it is now at almost at the implementation stage. We have another opportunity to develop 2 more concepts for proposals for Baringo North and Tiati to submit to Water Sector Trust Fund so that we can be able to get funds to assist in development of water projects, so that we can be able to add on that issue of equity. So in the long run, based on what we are doing and what we are doing with other partners, we will be driving the county to equity on water provision.
Yeah, and I think, Director, now that you've taken some time to clarify, the feeling is maybe things are moving slowly. And we may really want to see things happen as fast as we wish. And maybe with your department being here, you have your eyes and ears on the ground. You have the feeling that, yes, you may be making steps towards ensuring that access to water is improved in the entire county. Moving on, before we take questions, I think I had read out quite a number of questions, and we'll also invite questions from the audience here so that we can answer them in full. Finally, to you, Director, what challenges are you facing as a department that lead to maybe slowing down of completion of projects, and even the perceived failure to manage, operationalize, and to sustain water projects? What are the major challenges? Because the next thing that we will need to get out of this conversation is the way forward. We've learned about the challenges. The Mwananchi has expressed their frustrations or even that they are feeling on how projects are being done and why they are not benefiting them. So what challenges are you facing in your department when it comes to delivering services to Mwananchi?
We have got a myriad of challenges, and I want to begin on one of the challenges which is touching on all of us as a staff of the Department of Water, as budget champions, as the local leaders, and even the beneficiaries down there in the community. And this is how to manage rural water supplies. Currently, and I think we need to take it seriously, we are struggling, or we are trying to get a way where we can get funds to develop a water policy. A water policy will address how we can be able to manage small community water supplies, such that if, like the situation at the moment now, a certain village has benefited from a borehole, the nearby village may be around less than a kilometer, needs another borehole. Yet this borehole is in the first village is not adequately utilized. It is having a few people, and there is no reason of drilling another borehole there. The best thing is to pipe the water here to the other side to benefit more people instead of drilling another borehole. Such that the effect is that we drill a borehole here, we drill another borehole in the other village, because the community says it is our budget, it is our project. But if we add a policy which can address issue of sharing, such that if this community did drilling, the other community has got a budget for water and they do not have a borehole, we can use it to equip this borehole. In the next financial year, we get money for piping. That's why I'm saying issue of management of small rural water supplies is an issue for all of us. And this will be solved once we get a participative approach on a county water policy. It needs support financially, and even in the discussions from partners, even ZGG. So that is one of the challenges. The second challenge is about staffing. You find that we have got aging workforce. Most of our staff have retired. For the last 3 years, when I joined the county government, we around May 2019, I witnessed about 30 staff who retired. But because of the national government policy, directive, on freezing unemployment, the county government was not able to replace. These people who retired have worked with the county government for long. They have a lot of experience, and then when they leave and there is no replacement, it becomes a huge issue to the department. And so one of our problems is staffing. But hoping that in the near future or in the next few months there will be recruitment and it will solve that issue.
Okay. The
third issue is about this recurrent budget. You say that we were utilizing recurrent budget up to 102%. And I just want to bring in the reason why our recurrent budget is always 100%. One is our Grandich water supply company. Grandich water supply company is serving us in Kabarnet town. The bills, the pumping, the electricity costs incurred by the company in pumping water down from the valley, from the dam itself. From the dam to the reservoirs or the tanks in Grandich is 351 meters. That is very high. The cost of pumping, that is very high. And the connections to consumers is still very low. We have connections of about 4,000. Those are legal connections who have got meters. But due to some other challenges, the operational connections are about 2,000. And therefore, the collection from Grandich Water Company is not able to foot the bills of electricity. Remember, Grandich Water Company is a company owned by the county government of Baringo, but it is semi-autonomous. It is working outside the county, but it belongs to the county. The county government, through the Department of Water now, comes in to support Grandich Water Company in paying some of the bills. In fact, through that recurrent budget, we are paying about 35 million to foot bills of electricity for our company, which is providing water to residents here. We also purchase treatment chemicals for water for this company. So you find the budget for recurrent, you will reduce about 40 million fast. Then you can now say this is the amount which is being used by the department to operate all over the county, to pay staff, to use fuel for vehicles. That's why I'm saying our recurrent budget is not commensurate to the development budget provided. And the end result will be, in most cases, difficulties in facilitating staff.
You're done with the challenges?
That is the second challenge.
That's the third one.
The third one. Another challenge is about security, and I do not have to explain so much about security. Sometimes security issues affects implementation. Wakati kuna shida huko, tiati contractors wanakataa kwenda. Some contractors are awarded projects in Mkutani and Elgeyo's ward, almost at the border. They delay in implementation because of security. That is an issue.
He has come, or rather he has listed about 4 problems or other challenges that they are facing as a department. And I think to us the wananchi, it would also be prudent, pia nyinyi mumesikia shida zenye wanapitia. So before we end this discussion, we will also want to suggest how these problems can be sorted out. And we'll also give an opportunity to the director to tell us how best, what is their best approach towards sorting out the problems that they are facing at the moment. And before I leave your desk, director, maybe Chelal, you are a resident of Kabarnet ward. Unaishi hapa, lakini kuzaliwa umesema ni Saimo Kipsaraman. Amesema the recurrent expenditure for the Department of Water is way beyond 100% because of some factors like paying bills for the Kirandich Water Company. And for the last like 3-4 weeks, we've seen shortage of water in this town. Kuna maji Kabarnet kwa sasa?
Kwa sasa
imerudi.
But for 3 weeks, we're going to dry spell.
Dry spell. What was the problem?
Of course, the issue that director is saying, maintenance of the services by Kirandich Water Services Company. And I think it comes from low allocation to the department in terms of O&M. So at the end of the day, it will affect service delivery in the department. And something also that we should think about this county, that you see we roll over projects. And whenever we roll over projects, that means work that we done last year comes to this year. So if it comes to this year, we are not releasing money for this year to complete the works that just should have been done last year. So constantly, we have backfire of work for 3 years. But in terms of increasing the allocation to commensurate this work, allocation to O&M, still the same. We are allocating minimal allocation to O&M. And so it's time we need to rethink as a county. How do we make sure that the O&M is commensurate to the development plans that are there? In our communities, we allocate money for water projects, but when it comes to discussing O&M and other things, it's not our issue as a community. We feel like, sasa, tumeshaka wa pesa hiyo 25, so tunataka maji, but we don't scrutinize the budget to angalie how much is being allocated to the sector in terms of O&M to service the project.
So clearly here, there is an issue to do with the government, and also there is an issue, a huge problem within the community as well when it comes to deciding which project should be funded to what level. And I think by the end of this conversation, we should be having a way forward so that we don't get to discuss the same problem in the coming years. There was a question from someone, an audience who was watching online, and he was asking something related to Kirandich Company and Baringo County government. What is the difference? You said it is semi-autonomous. What is the difference between or rather, what is the line bordering Kirandich Water Company and Baringo County government, Department of Water?
I think now it is the best opportunity for me to explain the difference so that people can know. Yeah. One, there is a provision by the Water Act, Kenya Water Act 2002 and 2016 of the formation of water companies. These water companies are water providers. They do business and they are fully owned by the county governments. And when we say semi-autonomous, it means that they make their own decisions, they have their own management, they have a board of directors, they have a managing director, they have their own staff, and they manage their own staff. In their board of directors, which they hold meetings regularly, there's the chief officer for the Department of Water and Irrigation is part of the directors. He sits in the board. The chief officer in the Department of Treasury is also a director in the board, and there are 3 other directors sourced from outside. And then there is the MD. Though that board of directors make their own decisions. When there is a critical issue which is affecting the company, remember it is a baby of the county government. When there is a critical issue which might affect water provision to citizens, the county government comes in through the Department of Water to try to sort out and help them to stand and provide water to citizens. That is the difference. Now the Department of Water their work is to undertake development of water projects in all other sides of Baringo County. But for Kirandich Water Company, it has got a jurisdiction to provide clean drinking water and to do business. Theirs is to do business and to provide water to wananchi. Thank you.
Well, you've gotten an opportunity to clarify, and I hope Colonel Sigeri, whom you're asking that question, I believe you've gotten to get the difference. And now I think it's an opportunity for the people, or rather the audience who are here with us, to add or rather give their thoughts and ask questions if there are any. And I believe, Director, you had kept a record of the question that came from Isaiah Biwot, who is one of the budget champions here, and also Bwana Menotano, who is from Arabal, Baringo South. So to the audience, maybe we can take that time to give our thoughts and ask the questions, so that when we go to the answering of those questions, no one will feel to have been left behind. So the roaming mic, if you have a question, you just lift your hand. We will distribute the mic. Okay. You will start with your name and the ward that you come from. Give your comment and throw in a question.
Asante sana. Majina naitwa Michael Tamam. Natoka Kapukita Ward na mini budget champion. Nafikiri swali langu litaenda kwa director ya kwamba kuna bwao ambayo iko Sesia hapa chini. Sesia Center chini karibu Baraka Farm hapo chini. Sijui hiyo borehole imefikia kiwango gani, kwa sababu kulikuwa na issue ya shamba. Alafu hapo pia watu wanateseka maji sana, na changamoto ambayo iko ni kwamba walemavu kwa mambo ya maji inakuwa changamoto sana kwao, kwa sababu borehole hata ikichimbwa na wa-equip na waweke maji hapo, wale kutoka kukuja kuchota maji hapo bado ni kazi ngumu. Kwa hivyo nafikiria wakati tunaongea kuhusu mambo ya maji, pia tuangalie, je, hawa watu wanaweza kuja chota maji hapa? Sababu mtu ambaye ako sawa anaweza kuja chota na kwenda naye, ili utuwekee ya kwamba umesema ni milioni 7 mpaka kuequip kila kitu, si ndio? Na kuteremsha pipe mpaka huko, at least tuletee hiyo kiwango, ndio tukiwa public participation tunaweza kujua ni pesa ngapi ambayo inakutisha.
Well, just note them down so that you respond. We will respond to all the questions at once to reduce the back and forth process. There's a lady there. The mic from the back will be coming in front. Your name, where you come from, and you.
My name is Caroline Boswen from Kabarnet Ward. My question will go to the director. We have this rig which has already been purchased. Do we have the schedule for the balls which the rig will do? And if so, how many are they and where are they located? My second question will go to the same director again on implementation reports. As budget champions, we always analyze the quarterly reports. And our aim is to understand the status of the project. And most of the times you find that a project status is complete, but the citizens themselves have not accessed water. And you would have gotten enough information how complete is a complete project.
There's another lady there. It's encouraging to see ladies participating in this. So we are coming forward. From behind, we are coming forward. No one will be left behind. We are not quite many.
Okay, mimi kwa majina ninaitwa Rongaili Akwara. Kwanza naomba pole nimechelewa. Na swali langu ninauliza director kwamba uko na borehole ya Elngarwa water project ambao imekuwa implemented 2017 mpaka sai na juzi tu 2020 jo ilidriliwa, lakini wananchi bado hatujapata maji safi. Na hiyo borehole ilikuwa inasaidia pia katika maneno ya hospitali, na hiyo borehole imedriliwa tu, na wakati tuliulizwa kwamba kama pesa inatosha, tuliambiwa kwamba hiyo pesa imetosha mpaka kudrill na hata kuequip na piping. Kwa hivyo sijajua sasa hiyo project ya Elngarwa water project iko aje. Swali langu la pili ni kwamba nilisikia ukisema kwamba ile jambo ambalo umezuilia contractors kwenda kufanya kazi ni security, lakini katika eneo la Elchamus Ward hatuna jambo la insecurity. Kwanza hiyo iko kwa Kenya Forest, hiyo borehole ya Elngarwa. Sasa sijajua ni nini imezuia mpaka wakati huo bado hatujapata maji ya kunywa na hospitali bado haijapata maji. Thank you.
Naitwa Richard Masop kutoka Kabarnet Ward, budget champion. Kwa nataka niseme hivi, director, kuna projects mingi Kabarnet zimefandiwa. Alafu sema karibu iishe. Zingine zimebaki na pumping machines zisipikwe. Kuna zingine kama boreholes zimechimbwa kwa public, kuna zenye ziko kwa public lands iko sawa, lakini kuna hizi za private farms. Nataka community waone, nataka niulize kama county kama inasaidia kununulia fund hiyo mashamba ndio community waone. Alafu ingine Kabarnet town hakuna maji. Juzi tulipata maji kwa hospitali, sema asante kwa hiyo, lakini town iko na maji inatoka Toiwan na county na Korea Minister of Water wanasimamia hiyo. Kwa nini inashinda? Kuna maji siko hapo town inatoka, lakini inashinda tu kusupply kwa watu hapo.
Okay, and that should be the second last, and let me see the hands. I can see another 4 people. Okay, so let's be brief and up to the point.
Asante, naitwa Josephat Mspei. Mimi ni budget champion Kabarnet Ward. Langu ni nimesikia director anasema unajua ward fund 25 million per. Naona kuna issues 25 million against 10 departments. So I wish that then against locations. I wish kama kulikuwa na criteria whereby unge allocate percentages kwa departments ndio tuone. Sababu sema kufanya hesabu mathematics nasema ni pa department inakuwa 2.5 million. So which now kila ward akitoa project yao inakuwa dogo sana. Which is only one, maybe one or two projects. We naomba at least hii fund ya flagship ichukue another projects, ipunguze, iseme kama ni water projects inaenda kwa flagship ama gani inaenda kwa flagship, ndio kwa clarity. Sababu tukuja kama sasa tujue hii 25 million inaenda kwa which sectors. Iko service, iko access to service, iko better. Alafu kuna mwisho bwana director, tuko na water sector, tuko na strategic plan yao. You have a strategic plan for water sector. Finally, kuna hii O&M funds ama kwa group budget tulipewa 60 million group budget kulingana na papers tulisoma kwa documents. Ilikuwa 47 million, county assembly wakaongeza 60 million. So now sijui kama on this O&M kuna ile projects wamemap ile watariki kwa hii available funds. Na kuna projects iko dry kama ito Jebelebei ama ito ingine asset credit dulu ujeso ngogo ingine kama hii dry hapa, is there an alternative whereby you can replace that project? Ama wamechimba hakuna maji, ile pesa watafanya nyingine ya kurudisha hiyo to the community. Sande.
Okay. There was a hand up here, so you will not leave them out.
Okay, thank you. Swali langu linaenda kwa department water. Kuna kwanza, mimi naitwa Celestine Kiprono, Marakwet champion. Kuna hii Susurwa dam. Nafikiri ni Statehouse na hiyo. Nasikia hii project imekuwa kitambo sana, 2014 2015 financial year mpaka sasa bado haijaisha. Wana allocate state year, kuna pesa wana allocate, but kuna juzi wali allocate 1.5. Nasikia hiyo pesa haijatumika bado. But unaona hata kamati the project committee wenyewe hawana knowledge kabisa. The relationship between the contractors na committee kuna transparency. Unaona, unaweza uliza committee nini inaendelea, hajui. Unaweza uliza so far ni nini inaendelea, anasema contractors hawajatuambia. Ama kuna someone between the project committees and the community and the contractor and the committee. There is somebody somewhere anajaribu kufanya nini kuzuia the project siendelee. So maoni yangu ni kwamba at least our committees wapewe knowledge. Kuna hata wenye waelewi hii document, kuna wanahesabiwa document lakini wakisoma hawaelewi inamaanisha nini. So unaona wakitaka kufuatilia hakuna kitu watafanya kama wana knowledge. Nafikiri hiyo ni maoni yangu. Thank you.
Okay, 3 people to go. Let's keep it brief.
Asante. Majina ni David Laga kutoka Kisanana. Niko na maswali mawili kwa director. Moja, huwa tunaandika yale malalamishi yetu in form of memos the executive. Nilikuwa nataka kujua, are there avenues whereby executive part inapeana feedback maybe to those wenye wameandika memos? La pili, you've got a budget of M&E, that is monitoring and evaluation. Part of maybe your budget change to this public participation, Do you normally send your technical team maybe to help the community understand more, maybe budgets, and how much they can allocate to our project? Because at the end of the day, when you see a community allocating 1.5 million to a board, it is not his wish. It's only because he doesn't have the technical knowledge. So those are the two questions. Thank you.
Okay. You will note that much of the questions are going to the director, and that is all because the two other panelists are a member of the public, and they're also representing the public interest. So, director, I hope unajikakamua vizuri. Bado hatujamaliza. There are another two questions to go. 2 persons to go, really. Yeah. Okay, Chemususu. And we have the final person to ask their question.
Okay, kwa majina naitwa Salim Luwala from Mkutani Ward. Niko na maswali mawili kuhusiana na mambo ya stall project na operational projects.
Stalled projects and those that are operational.
Stall project in Mkutani Ward especially, there is 2 projects which has become stalled for so long. That is Loldama Canal. Hiyo project ilianzishwa, the scope of work ilikuwa kuchimbwa na kuweka boxes na culverts. Katikati ingine maji kakuja, kakuwa flooded. Wakati maji ilisha, we call back for the contractor. Contractor akasema siwezi fanya hiyo kazi na nimeresign kwa sababu nilinyima pesa. Pesa ilikuwa, I don't know, it was 1.7 million. Ikaongezewa 400,000 cash transfer pia. So you find the contractor alitoka, tumeandika memorandum, tumeandika petition, but no feedback.
You say that contractor alisema nini? Nimeresign
alisema, I still have even the record.
Alisema nini?
Alisema niliwacha hiyo kazi. Kwa sababu ile pesa niliwekwa ni mingi. Pesa ya quotation yangu ilikuwa 800,000. Lakini kuna pesa inabaki na sipewi. Ndio maana niliamua kufanya kuacha hiyo kazi.
Na huyo contractor ni mtu wa Baringo ama ni?
Ni wa Baringo. I know him very well. Alafu Loitip community priority was to installation of the lister generator. Wakaandika kwa in the all stages mpaka ikafika mahali kwa tafuta report ikapotea. Wakakuja tu kuweka, it was installation of the lister generator na piping of water from the source to the Narok. Wakapipe maji wakapotea. Uliza what happened? Wapi lister generator? Wakasema kuna barua. MC aliandika ya kwamba msiweke barua, msiweke lister generator. Kwa sababu pale kuna jua mingi sana. Na even management na hiyo generator amwezi. So community are asking. Ni community ndio waliweka SMC na walikuwa na shida mingi kwa nini waliweka hiyo lister generator. So we need to know as community kwa nini lister generator tujiwekewa. Ya mwisho operational projects. There is, I hope this is just a matter of advice. The county government is lacking the policies. You find a project, an operational project is being run by one family. Committee chairman from the same family. Treasurer from the same family. Almost all officials. Now there is no policies that govern that. Hiyo uongozi. Wanakaa mpaka ile wakati wanataka kutoka, community wakilalamika wanasema mtafanya nini? Kuna ile pesa tunatoa especially for the two balls, that is Losamrumbur ball and Loitu ball. Tunatoa pesa 100 shilling per month. Atuelezwi hiyo pesa inaenda wapi? So should the government, that county government should come in waone pia hiyo project watusaidie pale. Thank you.
Asante. I think everyone right now feels represented na sauti yake imesikika. So, Bwana Director, you had indicated earlier that you've come with a backup. Na umeona kweli there's a whole load of questions, so you can split the questions. Those that can go to your technical person can be answered by your technical person. I believe you're able to split, and we've really gone away, or rather gone way past our time. Yeah, we want to run it within 1 hour 30 minutes, but right now it is 2 hours and counting. So if we can squeeze, I don't know how much time you need to sort that out.
Maybe 15 minutes.
Thank you. In fact, I was to give 20, so thank you for shrinking that to 15 minutes. So you can split it with your technical officer here.
Yes, once I get a question which I need support, I will leave it to Engineer Nicholas.
Okay.
First of all, I want to respond to the first question from my side Biwat about the complaint about the poor workmanship of Ketiporok water project. In most cases, we have not heard of poor workmanship. Maybe it's an isolated case. But also, it might not be poor workmanship. It might have been an oversight during data collection. Maybe those piping were not provided with anchors because it was not provided in the bills of quantities. So I want to believe that there was an oversight during data collection. I mean feasibility study. And also, if surely there was a poor workmanship, I want to say that maybe the supervisor failed to visit the site in 1 or 2 occasions because our staff are few. And Baringo County is so fast. The amount of work staff I've got is more than the time is bigger. So I want to say that in most cases, our work is quality work. And if that is true, it is just an isolated case and we'll be able to rectify in the coming projects. Secondly, in the Department of Water, you talked of conflict of interest. That is a thing of the past. We do not have any conflict of interest in issue of projects. To respond to the online guy, Msalendo, about Kosile water project and Ngaratuko water project. The Kosile water project is a project which has got, it's a pole which is powered by a genset, a Lister engine. The Lister engine is old and is no longer working. We have got 1 million which we have budgeted to install a solarized system to power the bore. We have gone ahead using our test pumping unit which we purchased to test whether the bore works. And the bore is working. The motor is okay, the pump is okay, it only needs power. And we have procured a contractor to do solarization. In fact, last Friday, the site was handed over to a contractor, and I believe if Msalendo is following, I believe that in a few days, the contractor will be on ground to do solarization of that borehole. About Ngaratuko borehole, which was also asked by Msalendo, Ngaratuko borehole has got a pump and motor which are faulty. They are no longer working. We have done a technical assessment of the same and found that they are not working. And therefore, we approach it to the department management to see to it that that borehole is maintained to be operational. Luckily enough, in the previous discussions, it has helped us to be provided with a fund for operation and maintenance. So, hoping that Tuko borehole will be reinstated. Someone asked about Kabartonjo water supply. Kabartonjo water supply is served by Toiwon intake. We pump water using a pump from the intake, which is powered by electricity. We power it to Kabartonjo town, which serves the people of Kabartonjo. However, the Kirandich phase 2 was supposed to serve Kabartonjo town. And we were expecting even that by this period, Kabartonjo town will have been served by Kirandich phase 2. But because of the cash flow challenges which occurred, even you remember the sewerage system you installed kidogo. It is because of the cash flow from the donor. Otherwise, Kabartonjo would have been served by Kirandich phase 2. In addition to that, we are doing a proposal to Water Sector Trust Fund to be able to fund the development of Toiwon water supply, which will serve Kabartonjo town. And in immediate solutions, because using one pump is not sustainable, we are looking at an opportunity where we can add an additional pump in Toiwon, so that the pumps can be working concurrently as we wait for funding from Water Sector Trust Fund, so that we can make Kabartonjo water supply sustainable. About Kirandich serving water provision to Kabarnet town, I think I've talked about that. Someone also asked the machines, the drilling rig system, which were purchased by the county government, where are they?
Yes, and also another question which is in line with that is
and then
Poswany
also asked whether there is a schedule,
yes,
for the boreholes to be drilled by the machines. The guy who asked it, I think it was online.
Yes.
Where are the machines? The machines are within the office compound of the Department of Water and Irrigation. If you come down there, you will be able to take a photo of all the machines there. So the machines are safe. They are within the compound of the office.
So do we feel good there in the office? They should be in the field.
What's
the feeling?
I'm coming back to because I'm answering how it was asked.
Okay.
I'm coming back to Poswany about the schedule of the machines. Remember, the drilling rig system needs casings. For those who understand drilling of boreholes, there are these steel pipes which are being used to, when you are drilling, unatumia ndio uweze kuingia ndani huko. Those casings are under procurement. Maybe in 1 or 2 weeks, we will be having those casings. Secondly, we have got several boreholes which we need to drill. And I explained earlier that a borehole has got several stages before drilling. We have done hydrogeological survey of about 60 boreholes spread all over the county. We are finished. We have done environmental impact assessments. And once these casings arrive, because we have this under sourcing at the moment, once they arrive or the suppliers are brought in, we will be able to sit down and develop a schedule of the drilling rig, whether it will be moving from this borehole for this one and this one, all round the county. But the one for support truck, I mean test pumping unit. Test pumping unit is used majorly for rehabilitation of boreholes. If there is a borehole which has got a faulty pump or motor, we use the TPU or test pumping unit to go and retrieve and do assessment. So it is difficult to develop a schedule because wanapata report tu kwamba borehole mahali fulani imeharibika, it needs an assessment. Ngine imetoka mahali fulani. So that one we work on need basis. Once we get a report from the community, we discuss na tunatuma. But for drilling, we will be able to develop a schedule as soon as we receive our supplies.
Before you move out of that, Director, let me just interject something of interest, and I'm sure someone also is asking themselves, when were these rigs purchased?
The rig was purchased in the financial year 2020-2021.
And we saw them being commissioned. Was it early this year or last year? Late last year. Yes. So, you know, when you said the equipment are in the office, I got worried. I should be told the rigs, the equipment are in the field drilling. So since late last year, have they been used to drill boreholes?
Because you have asked that question, I want to justify what the machines were able to.
Have they done work? Is
yes.
it a yes?
Yes.
Okay. How many boreholes have been drilled since then, and how many have been resuscitated?
Here I have got a list of about 33 boreholes.
Newly drilled.
7 are newly drilled. 27, 26 are rehabilitated.
Okay. The drilled, have they been equipped? Watu wanakunywa maji ama wanaona borehole?
The ones for which were drilled, not yet equipped because it does not yet receive the funds for equipping.
Okay, continue answering the questions. Thank you.
And then there was a question about a borehole in Sesha. I just wanted to clarification of exact site in that borehole. Who was asking that question? Is it the one before the center in Sesha? Ile ya Kipimoi. The Kipimoi borehole, just as we discussed previously about land issues or challenges. Kipimoi borehole was drilled through Chaika funds. And there was a write-up or an agreement from the community previously. It has got a long story, but the original owner of the land, who had exchanged his land with another person, there was a land in Mochongoi and that land there. These two people exchanged their lands. The person who came into Kipimoi wrote an agreement to the county government to provide a piece of land to be drilled, a borehole which will serve the community. Later, the guy who went back to Mochongoi came back and he said, Mochongoi, I discovered this, they has got land issues. I don't know, maybe ownership or documentation. He came back and demanded to be returned his land. So wakati walibadilishana, ile mwingine akarudi, huyu akarudi shamba yake. Huyu kurudi shamba yake akasema hii ni shamba yangu na hakuna mtu, hii boa mupepe. Akambia community pepeni boa ulina. The community has come to the office on a number of occasions. We have tried to solve the issue. We have not gotten a solution. In fact, the community budgeted for 1.5 million for equipping, although it is little funds. They budgeted for 1.5. We told them we cannot do equipping until we resolve the issue. That is the status of that bore. And then one person also asked about how complete is a complete project. How complete is a complete project is very relative. One, when we give a contract to a contractor, we do inspection. We look at bill of quantities. If he has done all what is provided in the bill of quantities, based on that contract, that project is complete. Just for that project. It now comes back to, is the project complete to serve people? If a contractor is given some work to drill a borehole and provide a report, akimaliza kuchimba borehole, amepata completion report, amepeana kwa ofisi, imefanywa inspection, that project, that contract is complete. But now, is the project complete such that it serves wananchi? That is another issue. That means it is not complete. So the question maybe was not complete itself. You want to ask again? You want to add something on that question? Yeah.
Different projects. A community prioritized construction over time. Then, because they didn't know the technical how, you came in. Then you said maybe this money is not enough for this project. Then there was a change of scope of work. But maybe a tank to a pipeline, or a pipeline to a tank. At the end of that project, if the tank was constructed, then the pipeline, that change of scope of work, at the tail end of that project, that's the question, how complete is that project? Because at the community level, the citizens don't know if the changes, or how the changes was affected. That feedback to the community. Now the community will be questioning, we wanted a tank. But the tank is not there. But we have the pipelines. Now how complete is that project?
Now I want to answer that that whatever community decides, we also as technical officers advise them. Because if I want water in Fisaoshal down there, and the water source is here in Rift Hills, it means it needs a pipeline and it needs a tank. Do we construct a tank first there, or we put a pipeline first? Then we have to put a pipeline first, so that the tank will come later. Because we have to do first thing first. Then we'll have to advise the community, you cannot do a tank, yet you do not have water. Put a pipeline, fikisha huko, then tafuta pesa ya maji, ya tangi kwa hapa. So maybe there was an advice ambayo it was not well documented, but the office staff have got the prerogative to give technical advice to the community. Yeah. Okay. There is Ilingarwa bowl from Ilchamus ward. There was a question. Ilingarwa, usually we bracket it and we call it KFS bowl. I think that is the same bowl. The bowl was drilled. We have procured for a contractor. And I believe in another 2 weeks before Christmas, we will be having a contractor to be brought to site for handing over. I mean, before Christmas, we will have awarded and gotten a contractor to do equipping. Yes, yes, it has been. It is in sourcing stage. We only need to do evaluation. Yes. He said, before Christmas, we will have awarded a contractor, not taken to site. You know, these things go in stages. No, I say just before Christmas, we will have gotten a contractor. Yeah. Another question was about compensation for land. That is for the question from a representative from Kabarnet ward. I believe so. When community budgets for implementation of water projects, it is for their public need. It's for their public use to benefit all of them. In most cases, we encourage the community to target public land because we want to, as much as possible, avoid the use of private land. Secondly, we do not encourage compensation. Because if we encourage compensation, in the long run, most of the projects, most of the funds or water development fund will go to compensation for land. So that's an issue which has been discussed even in other forums. It has been discussed in the department, and we are discouraging compensation for land. But where it has become an issue, we encourage the community to budget for compensation of the land used for that water project. I think I've answered that. And then there was also a question about funds which remain after drilling a dry bore. Sometimes we prospect for boreholes, prospect for groundwater. We get a contractor to drill the borehole, and then he strikes a dry borehole. What we do is to compensate the contractor by paying him what he did by drilling that borehole, but there are some funds which are not paid, like casings, because it does not have to equip to put casings and other issues. So there are some funds which remain. When these funds remain, these funds still remains to be the funds or a budget for that project or for that community. So as a department and the community and the leaders will look into an alternative solution to provide water to that community. Either to change the site, maybe move to another site, or look for an alternative water source which can bring in water to serve the community. So Surwa water project has got a budget of 1.25 million. I know it's a project which is being followed, and we have collected data. We have done sourcing and it is here to go to evaluation maybe in the next 2 days, just like the other project. It is supposed to be done evaluation so that we can get a contractor. And then there was a question on Loldama water project, which was flooded in Mukutani Ward, and the contractor said hawezi rudi hapo kwa sababu kuna additional funds zimewekwa. In most cases, when projects delay for too long beyond the planned implementation period, the end result is that to ensure the community benefits, the project will be terminated. And therefore, I've taken your word, and we are going to look into that project in the department. We'll check the file, and probably we will terminate that so that we can be able to procure another contractor. But previously, I understand there was flooding in the area, which flooded the whole project site. So we will look into that. I think I've completed.
Yes, that was the final question from the representative of Mukutani Ward. And interestingly, you didn't even ask for backup. It sounds like you're a competent officer. I don't know, what's your feeling from
I was trying to get a question which goes to his field of work.
It's actually a compliment, so you should be saying thank you for the compliment.
Yeah.
To the audience, we'll give you an opportunity to seek clarification where necessary from the question. So, if possible, the mic can go so that ukiuliza unajibiwa hapo kwa hapo, so that we don't drag any further. And then after those clarifications, we'll go directly to solutions, because I'm sure you've heard of their challenges. The panelists here will also give us their thoughts on what the solutions can be. So the gentleman from Kisanana. Yes. He's saying, I think I remember his question. The question is here, their feedback that they give to the county government in form of memoranda. Is there a way the county government, the Department of Water in particular, gets to respond to these memos that the community is writing? There was this gentleman from Mukutani also had indicated that they have written petitions. I don't know how you get to respond to such. So that was his question. And the second one was...
The other question was maybe, do you mind when we have public participation, we send maybe a technical staff to this public participation?
Exactly.
Maybe to advise the community on maybe allocation, so that maybe moving forward, we avoid underfunding of projects.
So
at the end of the day, we will be helping you, maybe in terms of implementation.
So director, handle those ones, then we go to the next person. The microphone, please.
About the petitions, in most petitions, petitions comes through the county assembly.
So that's
through
a
the
petition.
department, through the committee of water and irrigation. In fact, we handled one of the petitions 2 weeks ago. We handled the last month, and then 2 weeks ago, a petition from the people of Marakwet ward and Iljamus ward, petitioning the county government on why we are not getting water from Grandich.
So the question is, how do you handle feed? How do you get to respond to them? What channel? How do you respond to such if they write a memo or feedback about a project, unawajibu vipi?
Yes, that's why I'm saying for petitions, it goes through the county assembly and we are able to address it from the department through the committee. For memos, which we get in the office, we look at the content of the memo, we put it in a discussion as management of the office, and be able to respond to the community. Like if a community needs a rehabilitation of a borehole, we discuss it. If we are able to handle, we call the committee or the MCA of the area so that we can be able to handle that project. But writing letters, we have never been doing that through letters. But we do it through communication. Maybe we call the MCA to the office, we call the committee to the office, and most of the issues we resolve in their presence. Because if the committee comes to the office with the representative, we discuss, we settle the matter.
Okay, I believe that has been sorted out. There's a gentleman behind you. You can hand over the mic.
Just as you recommended that we have technical officers participating in public participation, that is something which even should not be a discussion. It's only that because staff are few, but we encourage ourselves also to at least a technical officer to attend every public participation so that they can be able to advise the community on how they will be able to budget for their water projects. So that we can.
Before you call a technical officer to come to the participation, I think it is high time you as a community to come to the office. Then you discuss with maybe a sub-county water officer or a technical person around that office to know which project or which kind of a project you need before you go to public participation, because I'll be able to tell you how much you need to do a board or an intern. So before I come to public participation, because most of the cases I come to public participation, I found it so hard for me to my input to be taken in, because naambiwa budget ni 1 million, and that 1 million tumedecide. So no, I cannot do much. But if you come prior, then we discuss before for that team to come for public participation, therefore to know how much cost maybe to do anyone.
Okay, so are you satisfied? Okay, but I believe you've been answered. I think what the county government department of water is saying is the recommendation of having technical officers should be out of question. And further to that, the technical officer here, your name please? Nicholas is saying that if there's a project that we need as a community, then it is also advisable to make a visit, which I know it would also be expensive, to visit you and give you our presentations. And also, if I leave Kisanana coming all the way to Kabarnet, I'm not even sure whether I'll even find you in the office. So I think that the point here is we need to give capacity. The department needs to give capacity to these technical officers to be available on the ground. And his point of argument was there is money for operation and maintenance and also monitoring and evaluation, which I believe they fall in that category, so that these technical officers can be on the ground. It may be on need basis or mandatory during public participation. Finally.
Thank you, Director. I feel like my comment was not put in task. I said, does water sector plans? I don't understand.
Yeah. Do you have a sector plan and also a strategic plan? I think you asked about that.
Yeah. Also, I wanted a comment from you on what fund vis-a-vis departments allocation.
True, I think that was not captured. Yeah. So, do you have a strategic plan as a department?
In most cases, we work in accordance with the county CIDB.
Okay. So you've answered that. And then there was a concern on the ward fund. You said ward fund, and so he was doing a comparison. We have 10 departments. If you give 25 million to a ward, you divide by 10, that is coming to like 2.5 million per department. So if it is a water project, you have 2 water projects in a ward, and there are wards that have, my ward has how many locations? Marigat ward has 8 locations. So divide 10 per location, 2.5 million, it is coming to like 200,000. So there's basically nothing like water project that will be done in that location. So he's giving his, he's asking, what can be done to ensure that this allocation goes up? You are recommending that the allocation goes up versus the departments and also the sub-locations. He's looking at that 25 million vis-a-vis 10 departments and the number of locations on the ground.
Remember, we are working in accordance with budgets. In accordance with what we receive from the National Treasury. And then once funds are distributed equally, because we talked of equality and equity, ward fund is divided equally. So once it is divided to 30 wards, if each ward gets 25 million, it's upon the community residing in that ward to look at their pressing issues, because they have to do ranking of their needs. Because if we say we are going to touch on every project for every department, it will not benefit the community at all. So the community has to look at the most pressing needs of that area and then work on the most pressing needs to do ranking.
Director, on the, I think this is more into the flagship project budget. And so can the department allow the community or people at the ward level to participate in the decision on where these projects be allocated to?
Well, that is not an issue, because it is just about the communities to propose. Because once they give their proposals, we look at in the department, and also we make our contributions, and then when we are preparing the ADB, we propose.
Like the 10 million allocated to, okay, which ward does he come from? You're from? Baringo Central, and Baringo Central was allocated 15 million. So kwa hiyo 15 million, have the community been involved in deciding which projects they go to?
Yes.
Hiyo 15 million inaenda wapi?
One of the projects which funded, I remember 3 million project in serotonin.
What is that project?
It is about equipping of a borehole and pipeline.
Equipping the borehole and yes, last mile.
And a pipeline extension.
Okay. Yes. So was the community engaged in making that decision?
What I'm saying is that we usually use, when a community writes a proposal,
that is already
that is already their communication.
All right. So we move.
And when we have those documents from the community, when we are putting out proposals, we contribute our technical input and say, now this one inahitaji, this one inahitaji. So at the end of the day, we will have included their
input,
because we do not know.
Then that sounds like you may be engaging, but it may not be in a direct way. And I feel the voices here want to be engaged the way they are being engaged on the ward fund. So we are heading towards the tail end of this conversation, and before we close, I think we've highlighted so much on the teething problems, but what are the solutions? And maybe you've been tumekuweka kando sana Madam Kandie, and not because of our wish, but it's because it's been much of the department and for us to listen to them. I'm seeing a hand from the Center for Enhancing Democracy and Good Governance, though I might want to give you that.
Let's look at how the solutions look like. Like we've talked about O&M is very big. It's a very big systemic issue in the water sector budget. But anytime we engage with the assembly, there is one question that comes back to us. How much more do they need? So I know you do expenditure reviews, and these are the best people to advise, the technical people. Have they done a review, an expenditure review, and see in one financial year, given the kind of development budget, this is the kind of ratio? I know it might not be accurate, but how, like the county assembly increased the O&M budget to the water department. I was reading the approved budget, the county assembly report, from 43 million to 60 million, the O&M budget. But then we've heard from the CSO, a colleague of mine, Mr. Chelal, that we are piling more development projects to spend the same money. Also the staff time is the same. So we need you to inform our advocacy. How much more money does the department need to operate efficiently? They done something like that so that we use that in our advocacy, even with the communities and with the county assembly.
Yes, and I think also in that line, we'll give you an opportunity as an organization that has been engaging the community. When we are looking at the solutions, you might also want to give your input on that. Leakwara, you seem to be having a burning issue there. Fanya ikue short and brief.
Okay. Na swali nilikuwa na kaniuliza director kwamba katika Elgeyo ward kuna pesa ya flood control, ngambo flood control. Tulikuwa tumeweka 7 million na ikaletwa pia ikawa ni flagship project kwa Baringo South, lakini hatujapata hiyo pesa ilienda wapi, maana tukuona kazi yote ambayo umefanywa. Thank you.
Okay, that's another question that is coming up. Please use the shortest period possible. We will close, we'll have that as the last question so that we can wind up.
About, we call it Bergera, is it Ngambo? Ngambo flood control. I think we have done data collection on the same. And it's yet to be procured. In fact, we are doing gabions in most of the sections of that river.
So it is at procurement.
Yeah, it is at procurement stage.
Okay, is that satisfactory, Leakwara?
Unless we are talking of different projects.
Anasema hiyo washa collect data ya kujua nini watafanya.
Project ni 4 million. Sindio? Project ni 4 million.
Yeah, amesema 7 million.
Yeah, what we have ni 4 million na
hapo ngambo sahi hakuna watu kwa sababu ya flooding. Sasa ilikuwa tumeweka hiyo pesa iende itengenezwe dikes, na ilikuwa wananchi walikuwa wameweka hiyo 7 million. Alafu pia tukapewa flagship project kama kwa Baringo South
na hatujaiona watu wakikuja kuangalia hiyo na kujua vile tutaweza kufanya pamoja, na kama wamekuja hawajatuhusisha.
We had 7 million for flagship for Baringo South, but 2.8 million went to flood control of Endau River, and then 4 million went to Perikera flood control. That is, I think that's what you call Ngambo.
And that, to me, as your moderator here, I feel there is a disconnect between the county government and the community there. So you might want to engage, if there is a committee, maybe that would be the best way to channel that information, so that we, for the interest of time, ndio to see speculate sana, and we get to have the information getting to the ground. So maybe Lakwara, the director is here, you might want to follow up, and the director, you may want to also engage the committee down there if the project has a committee. I don't know if that is possible. Okay.
It is possible, and if it is not clear, and then I think I propose you can pay a visit to the office so that we can have a better discussion.
All right. So to you, Madam Kandie, umesikiza hii conversation na pia wewe ni budget champion from Barwesa. Ni yapi ambayo wewe unaona kama ni suluhisho kwenye hii shida yote yenye tuko nayo kwenye department ya maji, especially kwa budget implementation na pia ensuring kwamba projects ziko operational? Vile ulikuwa unasema labda umeweka 1.5 million na kumbe ni milioni 7 inahitajika. What solutions do we need as a community and the department ndio tuweze kupata services kama ya maji iwafikie wananchi?
Asante sana Mr. Komen. Okay. Kwa Barwesa, what solution yenye tunaweza fanya ni kwamba there is that gap. Now that tume realize kuna gap ya underfunding ya projects. So as a budget champion, I need to go back to my community to at least kuambia hawa ya kwamba let us not underfund our projects. Sana sana ya water projects. Because most of the time kwa kule ground unakuta ya kwamba tunalaumu department na kumbe makosa iko side yetu kama wananchi. Tunaenda public participation na tunaenda kuweka pesa kidogo. Pia kama department there is that gap pia ya kwamba hatukupata that clear information ya kwamba the best funds for a complete borehole. So tuseme tu information hatukupata kwa department, and now the solution now nimepata that information, I need to go and share with my.
So information sharing is a solution that you're suggesting. Isaac, you are a budget champion at the same time a facilitator when it comes to budget making process. Ni yapi ambayo what are your suggestions when it comes to the solutions to the problems that we've learned today?
Asante sana SK. Of course, just speaking from what Evan is saying, on ONM, I really wish the department should share with us the minimal amount that they want us to help them push, because as backs of, we normally have a budget day with the county assembly. And like Evan said, they normally ask us, so how much do you want us to give for ONM for the Department of Water? SK, you may realize also, some of these discussions are beyond the department. It goes to planning, the Department of Planning, and even the leadership of the county. Looking at how do we ensure that we don't spread too thin because the resources are few. So my solution is that I wish that we can take the discussion to the citizens that instead of discussing only the 25 million, why don't the citizens discuss the entire budget, so that what all remains at the department is O&M only. All the projects be decided by the citizens. And like where we are discussing 25 million out of a budget of around 4 billion. So 25 million, that's times the 30 words, still minimal amount that we are discussing. We are leaving the larger part of the budget for people elsewhere to discuss. I think the department is making attempts to discuss, to actually involve the citizens in deciding the flagship projects, but there is no structured engagement. It is just ad hoc. We involve them one way. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But of course, the Constitution gives the MCS powers. They represent the citizens. And so at times, that is where the disconnect comes, that the county government may engage the county assembly only for the county assembly members to decide on the project, of course, based on the interest as well. And of course, the budget process at times is political, and we must realize the same. To address some of the things is that, so for us as Backstop, we will continue pushing for increase of allocation to O&M. In terms of staff, I think we did some survey last month, the other month actually, to determine how effective has been the internship policy that Baringo County had in the 2019. When we were doing the study, we were just trying to develop evidence for advocacy. And going forward, in the next governance roundtable, there is a discussion that we want to bring in, that county should not employ any other staff apart from the technical staff. There's a lot of natural attrition at the departments, and there's no replacement of the same. And so what happens is when we allocate a lot of money to a department, when they only have 2 technical officers to reach around 300 projects. In terms of equity, I think, to me, I said earlier that we need to increase the amount allocated to wards. And so to me, the 25 million should be the minimum. And then we now, the remaining money that we are taking from the department, we now discuss equitably how we're going to distribute the 25. So that the lowest ward will get 25 million. This will cure underallocation. So that, because if a ward like Marakwet gets up to 60 million for ward development fund, they can now really budget for 7 million of a project. In terms of water policy, I think this is something that it is one of our agenda of Backstop, that we intend to support the county government in developing the water policy, so that we can know that there should be a clear way that we can say the minimum amount of the distance between ball X and ball B should be this distance, and should, when we want to do a ball, this is the minimum thresholds that we need to have. Lastly, on water policy as well, we intend to look at coordination. I think earlier in the sidelines, I was having a discussion with you. I cited a case where the national government develops projects in village here. The county government come again and develop a project in the same village. A partner comes in and develop a project in the same village. So we really need to have a discussion around coordination issues, so that how coordinated is the water sector in terms of even coordinating with the natural resource authorities, like now Warma or forest. At times you find that the county government prioritizes a project, the project is in the forest, but the forest department will say, until we give them a way leave, they're not going to access our forest. So for us, I think that is a key area. Lastly is that, of course, we will continue doing budget advocacy. Hiyo itaendelea kama njili ya Yesu mpaka siku yenye kila kitu itakuwa sawa. We will continue giving memorandums in all the stages of the budget, from approval, implementation, formulation, and to audit. Thank you.
And that last bit sums up even the picture and the feeling in this hall. The initial plan was to have a 1 hour, 30-minute discussion. That was according to the plan that we had with the partners here. But clearly, there's a lot that need to be answered. And from my desk here, I even had to loosen up so that we don't lock people out. Otherwise, if we were to get to be strict about the time, the 1 hour, I'm sure we would have left here dissatisfied. And that dissatisfaction is also a factor. a technical officer will appear for 30 minutes and they disappear, and a lot of questions may not be answered. And that again is echoed from a comment here I'm getting from WhatsApp. It's a lady from Marigat, anasema she's her name is Celestine Kiprono, and there's a weird occurrence that happened at the Barkipi borehole. A report that was given out by a technical officer from the county government was that the motor had a mechanical problem. Then there's a gentleman who was just passing by and akaulizwa tu mbona kuna maji hapa, akasema let me check the borehole, and they discovered that there was just one wire which had been disconnected, and that wire was connected, the borehole, or rather the pumping mechanism started working again. So you can see if time is little, then not much can be resolved. So maybe whoever was sent there didn't take their time to study and give a proper report. So Injili endele, that is for their advocacy, and also giving more time for these people to get to ask their questions and get to learn as much as they wish. Director, there is a question that was thrown to you. You have a problem of monitoring, operation and maintenance budget. How much do you have right now, and how much additional funds do you need for O&M?
Initially, we didn't have.
You can use the mic, please.
Initially, we didn't have funds for O&M, but through the discussions we've had in the past, this financial year we got 18 million for O&M.
Mm-hmm.
These funds, in most cases, we used to rehabilitate boreholes which break down, and to maybe complete some few projects which are hanging. And there are several projects which are able to be solved on that issue. Like we have Mangar water projects in Marakwet ward. I think it's almost in your area.
Yes, Mangar.
Yesterday we installed a pump,
mm-hmm.
because the initial pump had broken down, and through that fund of O&M, it was able to support that project.
So the question is, how much are you receiving? 18 million. What is the additional to ensure that you give the best of the services?
We request in the next financial year if we can get 30 million Kenya shillings.
So I think that goes to Baringo Advocacy, the Civil Society Forum. You've had.
The current budget is 18 million.
Budget that you got, I know the 18 million is for the repair of water projects.
Yes. That's what I'm talking about.
You know, the budget is divided into three. You have the development budget, then you have the recurrent budget. Then under the recurrent budget, you also have the salaries and personnel emoluments. And then we have the O&M budget, which is for facilitation. I think that's the part I wanted to get clarity. Have you done a costing of what does it take to facilitate your staff, to do data collection, everything, to the level of completing the projects that are already in your desk? So how much more? Because I think you talked about limitation. That's why you are spending 104% and sometimes 100%. So, or generally, the recurrent budget, how much more would you need?
In the recurrent budget, we have an issue on, we need to add an additional vehicle, even two, to be able to handle our projects. Baringo is so fast. The service area of Baringo County is like 3 counties. We have a section of inspection team, which Nicholas is part of that team. This is a team which goes all around the county to inspect the projects and to develop payment schedules for the suppliers. They do not have a vehicle. They share their vehicle with those who do supervision and with those who do data collection and those who do their work within the compound, in the office, and even those who are traveling. We have got 2 vehicles. And you can look at the whole of Baringo County and the amount of work we do. If we can get 2 additional vehicles, it will support our work better.
Okay, Evans, are you satisfied with that? Okay, so you look like you have something, Isaac?
For me, I think we just wanted a percentage on what percent from the development budget that they feel like should go to the current Department of Water, so that we can help them when we're having discussion with the county assembly to push for that figure, which is, it doesn't have to come from this forum, but you can just go do some mathematics and share with us, and then we can help in advocacy.
According to the standard, this is 35%.
Okay, so if that budget can go to 35%, yes, or can be pushed, what is the percentage right now?
22.
22. So if it can go up to 35, then that sounds like the department will be more effective. And that sums up our conversation. It was about the problems that we are facing, and right now we are at a stage that we are talking about solutions. And that should actually be how we should be doing things, because at the end of the day, we can't just dwell on the problems that are bedeviling the department, but now we've come up with a solution. So ours, as the budget champions, and of course the representatives of the Baringo County Civil Society Forum, that should be something to follow up. And I'm happy that Isaac Chelal, you're even asking in particular, what percentage do you need so that we can go push for that? That is a proactive approach of, or a way of approaching things. And that brings a feeling that we as the people of Baringo are actively involved in engaging the government, and even ensuring that if there is a challenge that needs to be addressed, then we are giving solutions to it. It's been 1 hour 30 minutes on paper, but it's spilling to almost 3 hours of conversation. And this is just water department. How about the roads, health, education, that is on the ECD side, and naming them up to the 10 departments that the county government of Baringo has. So the question would now be, how much time do we need so that we can sort out the issues pertaining budget implementation in every department? Today it was just about water. What about the rest of the 10 departments? And from the hint that we had given earlier, this is just a pilot, and moving forward we should be having more of such conversations. And I believe through the people who facilitated this event, Center for Enhancing Democracy and Good Governance, I believe this, in the coming years, you would also consider to fragment into departments and talk about every department, not leaving out any other department. Of course, water was a special case because it was one of the worst performing departments, despite being one of the most funded departments in the county of Baringo. Yeah, so from us as Baringo News, we are very grateful for taking time to watch, to be with us throughout the event, or rather the conversation, and the contributions that you've given us through the online platforms. We are grateful. And to the partners, the county government of Baringo, you've taken about 3 hours here, and I believe while you are coming in, you're saying you were late because there are people whom you are attending to in the office. And 16 of us were here, the budget champions, and of course the people who are joining us on the online platforms. It's been a worth time sitting here. And to us, the budget champions, I believe also you've learned something that not Leakwara, but Madam Kandie is saying that she has picked pertinent information that she wishes to take to the ground. And that is, to me, should be the feeling to everyone of us here. So until another time, with a conversation like this, we can only say thank you and have a good time. I've been your host and moderator, Komen SK. Have a good afternoon.